Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have a new collection of interesting stories for you to enjoy. Whether you're listening to relax, study, or fall asleep, these stories are perfect as background audio. Sit back and enjoy the video. Story 1. You need to be more understanding. My dad lectured after canceling plans to co-sign my student loans because my sister needed a $35,000 deposit for vendors for her third wedding. She's finally found the one. Your education can wait another semester. I've been working 2 jobs trying to finish my nursing degree. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just said, "You're right, Dad. Family first." Then I left a key on the kitchen table with no note and vanished before they got back. The apartment key made a small metallic sound when it hit the laminate table. I didn't leave a note because there was nothing left to say that hadn't already been ignored for the past 23 years. My phone buzzed twice on the drive to Marcus's place, Dad calling, probably just noticing I'd cleared out my room. I let it ring. The second call came from Mom's cell. That one hurt worse, but I still didn't answer. They'd made their choice in that conversation 3 hours ago, standing in the kitchen while I held the unsigned loan papers and shaking hands. "Your sister's been planning this for months," Mom had said, folding dish towels with methodical precision. "The venue requires a deposit by Friday or they lose everything." "I've been planning this degree for 4 years, I'd replied, keeping my voice level. "The semester starts in 2 weeks. If I don't register now, I lose my clinical placement." Dad had looked up from his newspaper then, that particular expression settling over his features, the one that meant the discussion was over before it began. "Brandon, be reasonable. Meredith's already been through 2 divorces. She deserves happiness. You're young. You can always go back to school." I was 23. Meredith was 31. This would be husband number 3, and I'd met the guy exactly once at a family barbecue where he'd spent most of the evening checking his phone and complaining about the beer selection. "I've been working doubles at the hospital and weekends at the hardware store for 8 months to save up for this," I said. "I just need someone to co-sign. I'll make every payment myself. We already promised Meredith." Mom's tone had gone soft, which somehow made it worse than if she'd yelled. "She's counting on us. The caterer alone needs $12,000 up front." That's when Dad delivered his speech about understanding and family priorities, and something inside me that had been bending for years finally snapped clean through. So I'd gone upstairs, packed what mattered into my car, and left the key on the table. They could keep the apartment. I'd been paying the rent anyway while supposedly living there for free as a family courtesy. The last 6 months of checks had gone straight into Dad's account as contributions to household expenses. Marcus answered his door in sweatpants and a faded college shirt, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without questions. His roommate had just moved out to live with his girlfriend, leaving the second bedroom empty. We'd joked about me taking it someday. Neither of us had expected someday to arrive at 9 on a Thursday night with all my possessions crammed into a 2004 Honda Civic. "How long do you need?" he asked, helping me carry boxes up 2 flights of stairs. "However long it takes to figure out what the heck I'm doing next." He didn't ask about the loans or school. Marcus had been my best friend since sophomore year of high school, and he'd watched my family dynamics long enough to fill in the blanks without prompting. The calls continued for 3 days. 17 from Dad, 23 from Mom, 9 from Meredith herself. I blocked all 3 numbers on Saturday morning and went to work at the hardware store, where I spent 8 hours cutting keys and mixing paint while pretending my entire life plan hadn't just collapsed. Sunday morning, Mom showed up at Marcus's apartment. I'd been awake since 5, sitting on the balcony with coffee and trying to figure out if I could defer the nursing program 1 semester without losing my slot entirely. The answer was no. I'd already checked the university website 4 times. Deferral required reapplication, and the program only accepted 30 students per year. I'd barely made the cut the first time. The knock came at 7. Marcus was still asleep, so I answered, and there was Mom on the doorstep with that wounded expression she'd perfected over decades of getting her way through strategic sadness. "Brandon, sweetheart, this has gone too far." I leaned against the doorframe. "How'd you find me?" "Your father called Marcus's mother. Can we please talk inside?" "No. Whatever you need to say, you can say it here." Her mouth tightened. "You're being incredibly selfish. Your sister is devastated. She thinks you don't support her happiness. Meredith's 31 years old. If she can't keep a marriage together, maybe the problem isn't bad luck." "That's a cruel thing to say." "Is it? Jason lasted 9 months. Tyler made it to 14. Now she's marrying Derek, who I've met once and who couldn't tell me a single thing about her except that she's hot for an older chick." Mom flinched. "People deserve second chances. Third chances. However many it takes to find real love. And I don't deserve a first chance at finishing my degree? Of course you do. Just not right now. Your sister needs us." The coffee in my mug had gone cold. I poured it over the balcony railing and watched it splash onto the parking lot 2 stories below. Tell Dad, thanks for the lesson in family priorities. I'll remember it when you're old and deciding which nursing home has the best reviews. I went back inside and locked the door. Mom knocked for another 5 minutes before giving up. That afternoon I called the university financial aid office, explained the situation without the family drama, and asked about options. The woman on the phone was sympathetic but useless. Private loans without a cosigner carried interest rates that would have me paying them off into my 40s. Scholarships for my year level had been distributed months ago. The only real option was waiting until next year and hoping I got accepted again. Or, she'd added, almost as an afterthought, you could look into the military programs. They have nursing scholarships with service commitments afterward. It's not for everyone, but the benefits are solid. I thanked her and hung up, then spent the next 4 hours researching Army and Navy nursing programs. By midnight, I'd filled out preliminary applications for both. Marcus found me asleep at his kitchen table at 2 a.m, laptop still open to a page about military nursing core requirements. You serious about this? He asked, squinting at the screen. I'm serious about finishing school. This is the only way I can do it without my parents. Your dad's going to lose his mind. My dad made his choice. I'm making mine. The Army recruiter called back within 48 hours. Staff Sergeant Chen was 40-something, efficient, and refreshingly straightforward. Yes, they had nursing scholarships. Yes, I qualified based on my grades and current credits. Yes, there was a service commitment, 4 years active duty after graduation. No, it wasn't as simple as signing papers and collecting money. You'll need to pass a physical, get security clearance, and complete basic training next summer between your junior and senior year, Chen explained. After graduation, you'll go to officer training, then serve as an Army nurse. It's a real commitment, Brandon. This isn't just a free ride to a degree. I understand. Do you? Because a lot of kids hear scholarship and don't think about what wearing the uniform actually means. I thought about my empty bank account, my blocked family, and the clinical placement I'd lost. I understand better than you think. We scheduled a meeting for the following week. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Meredith. The only person who knew was Marcus, and he was smart enough to keep quiet. I went to work, slept on an air mattress in his spare room, and tried not to think about what my life was supposed to look like right now. Meredith's wedding was scheduled for early October, about 6 weeks away. I knew because the save the date had arrived at the apartment months ago, back when I still lived there and still believed my family might occasionally prioritize my needs. The invitation itself showed up at Marcus's place 3 weeks after I'd moved in. Mom must have given Meredith the address. It was expensive cardstock, embossed lettering, the works. Probably cost more than my entire month's rent. I threw it in the recycling without opening the inner envelope. My meeting with Sergeant Chen went well. The physical was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Security clearance paperwork required references, so I listed 3 of my professors and the charge nurse from the hospital where I worked as a CNA. None of them were family. Chen noticed. No parents listed? We're not in contact right now. He didn't push, just made a note and moved on to the next form. The physical took 2 hours, blood work, vision test, hearing test, full medical history. I passed everything. The security clearance investigation would take longer, Chen warned, but he didn't anticipate problems. My background was clean as they came. I'd never even had a speeding ticket. Assuming everything clears, you'll take the oath in about 6 weeks, Chen said as we finished the paperwork. You'll start school on the Army's dime in January, then basic training next June. After that, 1 more year of school, graduation, and officer candidate school. 4 years from now, you'll be a lieutenant in the Army Nurse Corps. It felt surreal. 4 years from now I'd be 27, probably stationed somewhere I'd never imagined living, doing a job that hadn't existed in my plans until 3 weeks ago. But I'd also have my degree, 0 debt, and a career that didn't depend on whether my parents decided I was worth supporting. Let's do it, I said. That night I got the first text that made it through my blocks. Meredith had gotten my number from someone, or maybe she just messaged from a friend's phone. You're really not coming to my wedding? After everything Mom and Dad have done for you? I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, everything they've done for me? Like what, exactly? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, they raised you. Fed you. Put a roof over your head. And this is how you repay them? They raised me because that's what parents are legally required to do. I've been paying rent for 6 months. And they chose your wedding over my education. Hope the marriage lasts longer than the last 2. I blocked the new number and went to bed. The oath ceremony was scheduled for the last Friday in September, exactly 2 weeks before Meredith's wedding. Sergeant Chen's office had a small conference room with an American flag and generic motivational posters about honor and service. 3 other recruits were taking the oath the same day, 2 guys headed for regular Army, 1 woman going into intelligence. Marcus came with me. He was the only person in the folding chairs when I raised my right hand and repeated the words Chen prompted. I, Brandon Michael Torres, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The whole thing took maybe 90 seconds. Afterward, Chen shook my hand and gave me a folder full of paperwork, scholarship details, contact information, timeline for basic training. I was officially property of the United States Army, obligated to 4 years of service in exchange for finishing my degree. How do you feel? Marcus asked on the drive back to the apartment. Like I just made either the best or worst decision of my life. Could be both. Yeah. Could be. That weekend I registered for spring semester classes. The Army scholarship covered tuition, fees, and books, plus a small monthly stipend. I could drop one of my jobs and actually focus on school for the first time in 2 years. Monday morning I gave notice at the hardware store. My boss was sorry to see me go but understanding when I explained I'd gotten scholarship funding. He didn't need to know the details. Tuesday afternoon, my uncle called, Mom's brother, one of the few family members I'd always gotten along with. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Brandon, what the heck is going on? Your mother's been crying for 3 weeks. I gave him the abbreviated version, leaving out the parts about being ignored my entire childhood while Meredith got everything she wanted. Uncle Tom listened without interrupting. That's rough, kid. But are you sure cutting them off completely is the answer? I didn't cut them off. They chose Meredith's deposit over my education. I just stopped pretending that was okay. They're your parents. They made a mistake, but they love you. Do they? Because love looks different from where I'm standing. Silence on the line. Then, for what it's worth, I think you're handling this better than I would have at your age. Your dad's being stubborn because he knows he screwed up and won't admit it. Your mom's just caught in the middle. Mom made her choice too. I know. I'm just saying, maybe someday when things cool down. Maybe. Right now I've got to focus on getting through school and basic training. You joined the military? Army nursing scholarship. Seemed like the best option. Uncle Tom laughed, surprising me. Good for you, kid. That takes guts. Your grandfather was Army, you know. Korea. I hadn't known. Nobody talked about Mom's side of the family much. Was he? Yep. Tough old man. I think he'd be proud of you. We talked for another few minutes, mostly about my grandfather and the nursing program timeline. Before hanging up, Uncle Tom extracted a promise that I'd call him if I ever needed anything. I said I would, meaning it this time. Meredith's wedding was on a Saturday in early October. I knew because Marcus's mom mentioned it to him, and he mentioned it to me while we were ordering pizza that Friday night. So that's tomorrow, he said casually. Yep. You okay? I'm fine. It's just a wedding. Third time's the charm, right? Your mom's probably going to be upset you're not there. My mom's had plenty of chances to pick up the phone and have an actual conversation. She hasn't. That's on her. We ate pizza and watched a movie. I didn't think about the wedding again until Sunday morning when Uncle Tom texted a photo, Meredith in a white dress that probably cost more than a used car, looking radiant next to Derek, who still looked like he'd rather be checking his phone. Beautiful ceremony, the text read. Your parents asked about you. Told them you were doing well. I sent back a thumbs up and went to the gym. Fall semester started the following week. Being back in classes after missing a semester felt strange, like putting on shoes that almost fit but not quite. Most of my cohort had moved ahead without me, which meant new lab partners and study groups. I kept my head down, did the work, and tried not to think about how I should have been in clinicals by now instead of retaking biochemistry. The monthly stipend from the Army scholarship wasn't much, but it was enough to cover groceries and gas. I picked up weekend shifts at the hospital to help with rent and build savings. Marcus refused to charge me full market rate for the room, which probably saved my life financially those first few months. November came and went. Thanksgiving approached. Marcus's mom invited me to join their family dinner, which I accepted because the alternative was sitting alone in the apartment eating takeout. His parents were kind enough not to ask about my family, though I caught his mom giving me sympathetic looks throughout the meal. The day after Thanksgiving, Dad called from an unknown number. I was in my car, heading home from a shift at the hospital, when the call came through. I answered without thinking. Brandon. His voice sounded older than I remembered. We need to talk. Do we? Your mother's beside herself. You missed Thanksgiving. You didn't come to your sister's wedding. This has gone on long enough. Has it? Because from my perspective, nothing's changed. Meredith still gets whatever she wants, and I'm still supposed to be understanding about it. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tell me one time in the last 5 years you put my needs ahead of hers. Silence. I counted to 10, then 15, then 20. Finally, we've always treated you fairly. You co-signed for her first car when she was 19. I had to buy my own at 22 with money from working 2 jobs. You paid for her apartment after her first divorce. I've been paying rent to live in your investment property. You gave her $35,000 for a wedding deposit, but you couldn't co-sign a loan that I'd be paying back myself. Those situations were different. How? Meredith needed help getting back on her feet. You're young and capable. You don't need us the same way. And there it was, the thing I'd known my entire life but never heard stated so plainly. Meredith needed help, so she got it. I was capable, so I could figure it out alone. You're right, Dad. I don't need you. I found another way to pay for school. I'm doing fine. What other way? That's not your concern anymore. I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I had to pull over and sit in a parking lot for 20 minutes before I trusted myself to drive. December brought finals and the creeping awareness that I'd gone 6 months without speaking to my parents. It should have felt worse than it did. Mostly I just felt tired. Christmas was worse than Thanksgiving. Marcus went home to his family, leaving me alone in the apartment. I worked a double shift at the hospital on Christmas Eve, slept until noon on Christmas Day, and made myself scrambled eggs for dinner. Uncle Tom texted around 6 that evening, "Thinking of you, kid. Merry Christmas." I sent back the same and went to bed early. January brought spring semester and a grueling schedule of advanced coursework. Pharmacology, pathophysiology, and clinical rotations that had me at the hospital 4 days a week. I barely had time to sleep, let alone worry about my family situation. February passed in a blur of exams and 12-hour clinical shifts. I was working med-surg, which meant bedpans and vitals and medication administration under the watchful eyes of nurses who'd been doing this for decades. It was exhausting and occasionally gross and absolutely certain proof that I'd made the right career choice. March brought my first real conversation with Meredith in almost a year. She showed up at the hospital during one of my clinical shifts, somehow tracking down which floor I was assigned to. I was in the break room, inhaling a granola bar between patients, when she appeared in the doorway. She looked different. Thinner. Tired. Her third wedding glow had faded into something dimmer. "Can we talk?" she asked. I glanced at the clock. "I've got 10 minutes. She sat across from me, hands folded on the table. "Derek moved out last week." I didn't say anything. "We're getting divorced. Again. I know you probably think I deserve it. I don't think you deserve anything. I just think you keep making the same mistakes and expecting different results." Her eyes welled up. "That's harsh." "It's true. How long were you even married? 4 months? 5. He was having an affair. With his ex-wife." Despite everything, I felt a flicker of sympathy. "That's rough. I'm sorry." "Are you?" "Yeah, actually. I don't hate you, Meredith. I just can't keep watching our parents enable you." "Enable me? I'm not an addict, Brandon. I just have bad luck with men. Bad luck is coincidence. 3 times is a pattern. And mom and dad keep bailing you out instead of letting you face consequences." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Is that why you left? Because of me?" "I left because I asked for help with something important and got told your wedding deposit was more important than my education. That was just the final example of how things have always been. I didn't know you needed their help with school." "They didn't tell you?" "They just said you were being difficult. That you'd moved out suddenly and weren't taking their calls." I laughed, not because anything was funny. Of course that's what they said. Did they mention that I'd been paying rent for 6 months? Or that I'd asked Dad to co-sign my student loans the same day they gave you $35,000? Meredith's face went pale. "They gave me a loan. I'm supposed to pay it back." "Are you? Because I've watched you borrow money from them for 12 years and never seen you pay back a cent. That's not fair." "Meredith, I need to get back to work. I'm sorry your marriage ended. I genuinely hope you figure out whatever you need to figure out. But I can't be part of the family dynamic anymore. It's not healthy for me." I stood up and threw away my granola bar wrapper. She stayed seated, staring at her hands. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I would have told them to co-sign your loans if I'd known." "Would you? Or would you have just been quiet like always while they prioritized your needs over mine?" I left before she could answer. That night I called Uncle Tom and told him about the conversation. He sighed heavily. "Your sister's a mess, Brandon. Always has been. Your parents enabled it because it was easier than setting boundaries." "I know. Doesn't make it your problem to fix." "I know that too. You doing okay otherwise? School going well?" We talked for an hour about classes and clinicals and the looming reality of basic training this summer. Uncle Tom had served 20 years in the Navy, so he had plenty of advice about military life and how to survive the culture shock. "It's going to be harder than you think," he warned. "Not the physical stuff, you're in decent shape. But the mental part, being away from everything familiar, drill sergeants screaming in your face at 5 in the morning. That breaks a lot of people. I've been dealing with people who don't believe in me for years. I think I'll manage. That's the right attitude. Just don't go in cocky. Humility will serve you better than confidence. April brought the end of spring semester and the unsettling awareness that I was 2 months away from basic training. The Army had sent joining instructions, a packing list, and several stern warnings about showing up in proper physical condition. I started running every morning and doing bodyweight exercises in Marcus's living room while he watched and offered unhelpful commentary. "You know they're going to make you do all this in the rain while someone screams at you, right?" he said one morning while I was doing push-ups. "Yep. And you're voluntarily signing up for this." "Yep. You're insane." "Possibly." May brought finals, which I passed with solid grades despite the constant distraction of preparing mentally for summer. My clinical evaluations were excellent. Apparently I had good patient rapport and stayed calm under pressure. The charge nurse who'd supervised most of my rotations wrote a recommendation letter for my military file without being asked. "You're going to make a good officer," she said, handing me the sealed envelope. "The Army's lucky to have you." I thanked her and tried not to think about how different my life would look in 3 months. The night before I left for basic training, Marcus threw a small party. Just a few friends from school, pizza and cheap beer, everyone trying to pretend it wasn't basically a goodbye for 10 weeks. Basic training was in Georgia, hot, humid, and very far from everything I'd ever known. "You're going to write, right?" Marcus asked around midnight, after everyone else had left. "If they let us. I think we get limited phone privileges after a few weeks." "Your family know you're leaving?" "No." "You should tell them." "Why?" "Because 10 weeks is a long time. What if something happens? Then Uncle Tom will let me know. He's my emergency contact." Marcus shook his head but didn't argue. We'd had this conversation before, and he knew I wasn't changing my mind. The bus to basic training left at 4 in the morning from a recruiting station downtown. Sergeant Chen was there to see our group off, me and 4 other nursing scholarship recipients, all looking equally nervous and trying to hide it. "This is where it gets real," Chen said, addressing all of us. "Next time I see you, you'll be soldiers. Don't quit on day 1. Don't quit on day 30. Just keep pushing forward, and you'll be fine." The bus ride took 14 hours. We arrived at Fort Benning after dark, stumbled off the bus into humidity that felt like being slapped with a wet towel, and immediately started getting yelled at by drill sergeants who seemed genuinely angry that we existed. The first week was designed to break us. Sleep deprivation, constant physical activity, being screamed at for infractions we didn't understand. My body hurt in places I didn't know could hurt. I got maybe 4 hours of sleep a night and 8 meals in under 5 minutes because that's all the time we were given. But Uncle Tom had been right, the physical part wasn't the worst of it. The mental game was harder. Being stripped of individuality, treated like a generic trainee instead of a person, having every decision made for you from when you woke up to when you slept. That took adjustment. By week 3, I'd found a rhythm. Wake at 0430, physical training, breakfast, training rotations, more physical training, evening classes, sleep. Repeat. The drill sergeant stopped feeling like personal enemies and started feeling like force of nature obstacles you just had to weather. We got limited phone privileges in week 4. 10 minutes on Sunday afternoon. I called Marcus first, reassured him I was still alive and hadn't quit. He caught me up on life back home. He'd started dating someone, work was fine, the apartment was quiet without me. "Your mom called my mom again," he mentioned. "Asked if I knew where you were." "What did you say?" "That you were doing well and I'd pass along the message that she called." "Thanks. You should call them, man. They're worried. They had almost a year to reach out. This is on them." I hung up before he could guilt me further. Week 6 brought field training exercises, sleeping in tents, eating MREs, learning to move as a unit through mock combat scenarios. It was exhausting and strangely fun. My platoon had started to gel, finding our rhythm together. The nursing track meant most of us were a little older, a little more mature than typical enlistees. We looked out for each other. Week 8 brought the confidence course and gas chamber. The course was fine, I'd been climbing and running obstacles for weeks. The gas chamber was exactly as miserable as everyone had warned. Tear gas is a special kind of torture that makes your face feel like it's melting while you can't breathe and your eyes produce tears that might actually be acid. But I didn't quit. Nobody in my platoon quit. We stumbled out gasping and crying and immediately started joking about how much it had hurt. Week 10 brought graduation. Marcus drove down from home, along with Uncle Tom, who'd made the trip from 3 states away. They were the only people in the stands for me during the ceremony. I scanned the crowd briefly, some stupid part of me hoping my parents had somehow found out and come anyway. They hadn't. "You did it," Uncle Tom said afterward, gripping my shoulder hard enough to hurt. "Your grandfather would have been proud." Thanks for coming. Wouldn't have missed it. You heading back home for a few weeks before school starts? Yeah. Got about 2 weeks before fall semester. The drive back was long and gave me too much time to think. I'd survived basic training, proved I could handle the military lifestyle, and was returning home with 10 weeks of discipline and confidence I hadn't possessed before. I was different now in ways I couldn't quite articulate. Marcus noticed immediately. You stand differently, he said the first night back. What? Your posture. You stand like you're permanently at attention. It's weird. You get used to it. Did they brainwash you? Probably a little. Fall semester started and brought with it the most intense year of coursework I'd faced yet. Advanced medical surgical nursing, pediatrics, obstetrics, psychiatric nursing, all of it overlapping with clinical rotations that had me working 40-hour weeks on top of classes. I barely had time to breathe, let alone worry about family drama. The Army stipend continued covering basics, and I'd saved enough from working to mostly avoid stress about bills. Life had found a sustainable rhythm, even if it was exhausting. October came again, marking a full year since Meredith's wedding and my departure from family life. Uncle Tom called to check in, mentioning that Meredith's divorce had been finalized and she'd moved back in with Mom and Dad. She doing okay? I asked, surprising myself by caring. As okay as she ever is. Your mom's trying to get her into therapy. We'll see if it sticks. And Mom and Dad? Missing you. They won't say it directly, but I can tell. They know where I am. Do they? You haven't exactly made yourself available. Neither have they. Uncle Tom sighed. You're both being stubborn. Someone's going to have to bend eventually. Then they can bend. I asked for help and got rejected. The rest is on them. November brought Thanksgiving again, and again Marcus's family invited me. This time felt less sad, more like a chosen family situation that I'd started to embrace. Marcus's mom cornered me in the kitchen while we were cleaning up after dinner. You know, Brandon, blood doesn't make a family. Being there makes a family. You're always welcome here. I had to turn away so she wouldn't see the tears that surprised me. Thank you. That means a lot. December brought finals and Christmas and the creeping awareness that I was halfway through my final year of nursing school. 6 months from now I'd graduate, then immediately head to officer candidate school, then launch into 4 years of active duty as an Army nurse. The timeline felt surreal. 2 years ago I'd been begging my father to co-sign a loan. Now I was on track to finish with zero debt, a guaranteed job, and a career path that didn't depend on anyone's approval but my own. Spring semester started with an email from the university congratulations me on being selected for a leadership award, basically recognition for students who'd overcome significant obstacles to complete their degree. There was a ceremony in March with a small scholarship attached. Uncle Tom came to the ceremony. So did Sergeant Chen, which surprised me. Marcus was there, obviously, and his parents. The dean read a brief bio mentioning my military service commitment and non-traditional path through the program. I shook hands, accepted the certificate and check, and tried not to feel bitter that my own parents hadn't bothered to track my achievements. After the ceremony, Chen pulled me aside. You've come a long way since that first meeting in my office, he said. I remember thinking you seemed lost. You're not lost anymore. No, sir. I know exactly where I'm going. Good. The Army needs nurses who can handle pressure. You're going to do well. We shook hands, and he left. Uncle Tom caught up with me in the parking lot. Your dad called me last week, he said without preamble. I stiffened. Why? Because he found out somehow that you're graduating this spring. He wanted to know if you'd be okay with them coming to graduation. What did you tell him? That it wasn't my place to answer, and he should ask you directly. He hasn't called me. I know. He's scared. Scared of what? Scared you'll say no. Scared he's lost you for good. Scared he made a mistake that can't be fixed. I leaned against my car, suddenly exhausted. He did make a mistake. Multiple mistakes. They both did. And I don't know if that can be fixed. I'm not saying you should forgive them. I'm saying maybe you should let them try to apologize. Why should I make this easy for them? Not for them. For you. Carrying anger is heavy, Brandon. Eventually it'll hurt you more than it hurts them. Uncle Tom left me with that thought. Graduation was scheduled for early May. I'd completed every credit, passed every clinical, satisfied every requirement. The Army had already sent orders. I'd report to officer candidate school in Virginia in June, right after graduation. 12 weeks of training, then assignment to my first duty station. Probably a military hospital somewhere, learning on the job while serving out my 4-year commitment. The week before graduation, I broke down and unblocked my parents' numbers. The first call came within an hour, Mom, sobbing before she even said hello. Brandon, sweetheart, I've missed you so much. Hi, Mom. Are you okay? Are you safe? Uncle Tom said you joined the military. Is that true? Yes. I'm graduating next week, then going to officer training. Officer training? You're going to be an officer? Army nurses are commissioned as lieutenants. I'll be a second lieutenant in about 3 months. Silence. Then, softly, your father and I would like to come to graduation. If that's okay with you. I'd prepared myself for this conversation for weeks, rehearsing different responses. But now that it was happening, all my preparation felt useless. Why do you want to come? Because you're our son and we're proud of you. Are you? Because 2 years ago you weren't proud enough to help me finish this degree. Brandon, we made a mistake. We should have helped you. We should have prioritized your needs. We didn't, and I'm sorry. We're both sorry. Is Dad there? Rustling sounds, then Dad's voice. Brandon. Dad. Your mother's right. We should have co-signed your loans. We should have put you first. I've regretted that decision every day for 2 years. But you never called. Never apologized. Never tried to fix it until now. I know. I was ashamed. I knew I'd failed you, and I didn't know how to admit it. Something in his voice cracked. In 23 years, I'd never heard my father sound vulnerable. You hurt me, I said quietly. Both of you. You made me feel worthless. Like Meredith's happiness was more important than my future. I know. Oh my gosh, Brandon, I know. And I can't take that back. I can only tell you that I was wrong and I'm sorry and I want to be part of your life again. If you'll let me. I closed my eyes. You can come to graduation. Both of you. But that doesn't mean everything's fixed. I understand. Thank you. That's more than we deserve. We talked for another few minutes, awkwardly catching up on 2 years of missed time. I told them about basic training and clinical rotations and my plans for officer training. They told me about Meredith moving back home and starting therapy, about how quiet the house felt without me. When we hung up, I sat in my car for 20 minutes trying to process the conversation. Marcus found me there when he got home from work. You okay? I called my parents. They're coming to graduation. That's good, right? I don't know yet. Maybe. Graduation day arrived hot and clear. The nursing school ceremony was separate from the main university event, held in a smaller auditorium with just our cohort and faculty. I bought 5 tickets, Marcus and his parents, Uncle Tom, and my parents. They all showed up. Mom was crying before the processional even started. Dad looked older than I remembered, gray at the temples. Meredith wasn't with them, which was probably for the best. When my name was called and I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, the whole group stood and cheered. I caught my father's eye, and he mouthed something I couldn't quite catch. Maybe proud of you. Maybe just sorry. After the ceremony, we gathered in the parking lot. Introductions were awkward. Marcus's parents had never met mine. Uncle Tom was shooting my father looks that could cut glass. But we managed pleasantries, took photos, and agreed to meet at a restaurant for lunch. Over mediocre pasta and breadsticks, Dad cleared his throat. Brandon, I know this isn't the time or place, but I need to say this. Your mother and I were wrong. We failed you when you needed help, and there's no excuse for that. You've accomplished incredible things without us, and I'm both proud and ashamed. Proud of you, ashamed of myself. Mom reached across the table and grabbed my hand. We want to be part of your life again. If you'll allow it. I looked at their faces, older, sadder, marked by 2 years of regret they'd been too stubborn to address until forced. I'm leaving for Virginia in 3 weeks, I said. Officer training, then assignment to wherever the Army sends me. I don't know when I'll be back. We'll visit. Wherever you are. If you want us to. What about Meredith? They exchanged glances. Finally Mom said, Meredith is dealing with her own issues. She's in therapy, living at home, trying to figure out her life. But that's not your responsibility. We know that now. We should have known it then. What changed? Dad set down his fork. Honestly? You disappeared and proved you didn't need us. That was a wake-up call. We'd always assumed you'd be there, that you'd forgive anything because you were easygoing and responsible. We took you for granted. And then you were just gone. It took losing you to realize what we'd lost. It shouldn't have taken that. No. It shouldn't have. But here we are. I sat back, thinking. They'd hurt me deeply, prioritized the wrong child, and taken 2 years to apologize. But they were here now, trying. That had to count for something. We can try, I said finally. Slowly. No promises that everything goes back to normal. That's fair, Dad said. More than fair. We finished lunch with lighter conversation about officer training and what military life might be like. Marcus and his parents left after eating, giving my family space. Uncle Tom stayed, occasionally interjecting stories from his Navy days to fill awkward silences. When we finally said goodbye in the parking lot, Mom hugged me hard enough to hurt. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. I should have said it every day. I'm saying it now. Dad's hug was briefer but no less meaningful. Be safe. Call when you can. I promised I would. The drive back to the apartment felt surreal. 2 years of anger and hurt hadn't magically disappeared, but something had shifted. Maybe Uncle Tom was right, carrying anger was heavy, and I was tired of the weight. Marcus was waiting with beer and pizza when I got home. How'd it go? Better than expected. Still complicated. Everything with family is complicated. Truth. We ate pizza and watched basketball and didn't talk about anything heavy. Some moments didn't require deep conversation. 3 weeks later I reported to officer candidate school in Virginia. It was similar to basic training but more intense. The Army expected officers to lead, which meant higher standards and harsher criticism when we failed to meet them. The 12 weeks tested every limit I thought I had. But I made it through. On graduation day, Uncle Tom pinned my second lieutenant bars on my uniform while Mom cried and Dad looked like he might join her. Meredith had come this time, looking healthier than she had in years, and pulled me aside afterward. I'm sorry I was part of the problem, she said. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. You working on yourself? Trying to. Therapy helps. So does living at home without a husband to distract me from my issues. I'm glad you're doing better. I'm glad you didn't let us destroy your future. You deserved better than how we treated you. We hugged, and it felt genuine for maybe the first time ever. My first assignment was Fort Sam Houston in Texas, a large military hospital with a busy emergency department. I spent the next 4 years learning to be both a nurse and an officer, treating everything from routine injuries to combat casualties being stabilized stateside. The work was hard but fulfilling. I was good at it. Patients trusted me, fellow nurses respected me, commanding officers gave me increased responsibilities. I made rank to first lieutenant after 2 years, got certified in emergency nursing, and discovered I was exactly where I was supposed to be. My parents visited twice a year, usually coming down for a long weekend. We'd have dinner, talk carefully around old hurts, and build something new that resembled a functional relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Meredith stayed single, got a job, moved into her own place. She called occasionally, usually when she was struggling and needed to talk to someone who understood the family dynamics. I listened more than I advised, which seemed to help. Marcus finished his own degree, got engaged to the woman he'd started dating during my basic training, and asked me to be his best man. I took leave and flew back for the wedding, which was simple and genuine and everything Meredith's 3 weddings hadn't been. You saved my life, you know, I told him during the reception. I gave you a couch and spare room. You gave me a place to land when my family pushed me off a cliff. That's bigger than furniture. He hugged me hard. You'd have figured it out without me. You're the most stubborn person I know. Learned from experience. Sometimes stubbornness is the only thing that keeps you standing. 4 years after taking the oath, I completed my service commitment. The Army offered me a promotion to captain if I'd re-enlist. I thought about it seriously. I'd found purpose in military nursing, and the career path was clear. But I also wanted to choose my next step freely, without obligation. I declined the promotion, accepted an honorable discharge, and moved back home. The civilian hospital where I'd worked as a CNA during school hired me immediately as an experienced emergency department nurse. The pay was better than military salary, and I could live wherever I wanted. I found an apartment downtown, furnished it slowly, and started building a life that belonged entirely to me. Dad called a month after I'd settled in. "Want to grab dinner? Just us?" We met at a steakhouse, ordered food, and talked carefully around heavy topics until dessert arrived. Then Dad set down his fork and looked at me directly. "I need you to know something. The worst mistake of my life was telling you your education could wait. I think about that conversation constantly. If I could take it back, you can't. Neither of us can change what happened. I know. But I need you to know that I see you now. I see what you've accomplished, and I know it happened despite me, not because of me. You're a better man than I deserve to call my son." I met his eyes. "I'm not better. I just made different choices. And you're here now. That counts." "Does it? Can you really forgive what we did?" "I don't know yet. But I'm willing to keep trying to build something new. That's the best I've got." He nodded, eyes suspiciously bright. "That's more than I deserve. Thank you." We finished dinner and went home to our separate lives, but something had shifted again. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of it. 6 months later, Meredith called in a panic. She'd been offered a job in another state, a genuine opportunity for advancement, but she'd need help with moving costs. Could I possibly loan her money? I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "No." "What?" "Brandon, I really you need to figure this out yourself." "That's not mean. That's me believing you're capable of solving your own problems." "But I can't afford." "Then you can't take the job, or you find another way to afford it. Talk to Mom and Dad if you need help. I'm not your backup plan anymore. She was quiet. Then, you're right. I'm sorry for asking. Don't be sorry. Just be independent. You're capable of more than anyone's ever expected from you. Prove it. We hung up. She moved 2 months later, funded by her own savings and a small loan from our parents that she actually paid back on schedule. She called me from her new apartment, excited and nervous and standing on her own feet for maybe the first time. I did it, she said. No husband, no bailout. Just me. I'm proud of you. That means a lot coming from you. Marcus got married, had a kid, invited me to be the unc. I accepted, showed up for birthdays and holidays, and watched him build the kind of stable family life I'd stopped believing was real during my own childhood. Years passed. I made charge nurse, then nurse manager, collecting responsibilities and respect. My parents aged, grew gentler, never quite stopped apologizing in small ways. We celebrated holidays together, carefully building traditions that acknowledged the past without being buried by it. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. Work fulfilled me in ways relationships hadn't managed yet. Maybe someday that would change. Maybe not. I was content either way. 10 years after leaving the key on the kitchen table, I sat in my own house, bought with savings, furnished with care, and thought about the 23-year-old kid who'd driven away from his family with everything he owned packed into a Honda Civic. He'd been hurt and angry and lost. He'd made choices out of necessity that became choices out of strength. He'd learned that family could be built as much as inherited, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you. I'd become someone I was proud of, built a life that depended on no one's approval but my own. The military had given me structure and purpose and a way forward when every door seemed closed. Marcus had given me friendship when I needed it most. My parents had eventually learned to see me, even if it took losing me first. The revenge I'd wanted that night, hurting them the way they'd hurt me, had transformed into something different. Not revenge. Just consequences. I'd removed myself from a dynamic that diminished me, and in doing so, I'd forced everyone to grow. Mom called that evening, like she did every Sunday. How are you, sweetheart? Good. Busy week at work, but good. Your father wants to know if you're coming for Thanksgiving. Probably. Marcus's family too? Of course. The more the merrier. We talked for 20 minutes about nothing important, weather, work gossip, a recipe she'd tried. Normal parent-child conversation, the kind I'd stopped believing we'd ever have. When we hung up, I sat on my porch with coffee and watched the sunset paint the sky orange and purple. Somewhere in the distance, traffic hummed. A dog barked. Life continued its mundane, beautiful march forward. I'd walked away with nothing and built everything. That was revenge enough. Story 2.
You're being dramatic, my dad said after spending $40,000 on my brother's wedding while handing me $120 for mine with a shrug. My mom added, you should be grateful we gave you anything at all. Your brother needed the help more. I stood there in silence while my brother smirked behind them. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded, left a folded note on the kitchen counter, and blocked all their numbers. 2 hours later, they were blowing up my phone after finding out the truth about. The note was simple. Typed. Professional. Like a business memo ending a 28-year contract nobody had bothered to read the fine print on. To Mom and Dad, effective immediately, the following monthly payments will cease. Your mortgage, $2,847. Dad's truck payment, $680. Mom's car lease, $425. The lake house utilities, $340. Your credit card minimums, $1,200. Total monthly relief I've been providing, $5,492. Over the past 6 years, $395,424. I kept records. All of it. Every transfer, every emergency that somehow became permanent. But here's the real detail you should know, Dad, you're not my biological father. Mom had an affair with Richard Holbrook in 1996. I found the letters when I was 16, tucked in the attic in that blue hat box behind the Christmas decorations. I've carried that knowledge for 12 years, watching you treat me like a second-class citizen in my own family, wondering if deep down you somehow knew. Maybe that's why you always loved Marcus more. Maybe it's just who you are. Either way, I'm done funding a family that never saw me as equal. Don't contact me. Jenna, I left it there, weighted down with their house keys. Then I disappeared. The drive to my fiancé David's apartment took 40 minutes, but it felt like seconds. My hands were steady on the wheel. No tears. No shaking. Just this strange, crystalline clarity I'd never experienced before. David met me at the door, concern creasing his forehead. How did it go? Exactly as expected. I set my purse down, kicked off my heels. They gave me $120 and told me to be grateful. His jaw tightened. Jenna, I left the note. He went very still. We talked about this for months, but talking and doing are different animals. You really did it. Every word. And the part about everything. I told them everything. David pulled me into his arms, and I let myself sink into him. He smelled like coffee and the sandalwood soap I'd bought him for his birthday. Safe. Home. The things my parents' house had never been. They're going to lose their minds, he said quietly. Good. My phone started buzzing around 7 p.m. I'd already blocked their main numbers, but apparently Mom had called from the landline. Then Marcus's cell. Then Mom's work phone. Then a number I didn't recognize, probably a neighbor. 15 missed calls in 30 minutes. David glanced at my phone lighting up on the counter. You going to answer? No. They might show up here. They don't know where you live. I never told them your address. I'd been careful about that, even before this. Some instinct had kept my safe places separate from them. The calls continued through dinner. Through our attempt to watch a movie. Through the night, each buzz another tiny vibration of rage and panic from 20 miles away. I slept better than I had in years. The thing about revenge is that it's supposed to feel good immediately, right? Like in movies where the wronged person walks away in slow motion while everything explodes behind them, and there's this triumphant music swelling up. Real revenge is quieter. It's waking up the next morning and making coffee and realizing your shoulders don't hurt because you're not carrying their weight anymore. It's checking your bank account and seeing that $5,492 still sitting there instead of transferred away to people who never said thank you. David left early for work. He's a civil engineer and they had some inspection at a site downtown. I took the day off from my job at the marketing firm, claiming a family emergency. Which wasn't exactly a lie. My phone had finally gone quiet around 3 a.m. Now it was 9, and the silence felt enormous. I made eggs. Read the news. Watered the plants on David's balcony that I'd slowly been moving in over the past few months, my belongings creeping into his space like I was afraid to commit fully until now. The knock came at 10:47 a.m. I checked the peephole. Marcus. Of course it was Marcus, golden boy, favorite child, the one who'd gotten everything handed to him including a $40,000 wedding while I got a handshake and some grocery money. He looked terrible. His hair was uncombed, his eyes red-rimmed. Good. I opened the door but left the chain on. How did you find me? Followed you yesterday. Waited down the street, he laughed, but it came out desperate. Oh my, Jenna, what did you do? I stopped being an ATM. They're freaking out. Mom's been crying for hours. Dad punched a hole in the kitchen wall. Sounds like AITA problem. The mortgage payment is due in 5 days. The bank's already called twice about last month being late. Then I guess they should pay it. Marcus's face went through several expressions: confusion, anger, disbelief, then something that looked almost like fear. You can't be serious. You've been helping them for years. You can't just stop. Watch me. They'll lose the house. They have jobs. Dad makes $70,000 a year at the plant. Mom makes $45,000 at the school district. They can afford their own bills. I leaned against the doorframe, the chain still between us. They just chose not to because I was stupid enough to keep paying. It's not that simple. It really is. His voice dropped. The thing about Dad. Is that true? There it was. The real reason he'd come. Not to advocate for our parents' financial crisis, but to find out if his sister was really his half-sister. If his perfect family was built on a lie. Yes. How long have you known? 12 years. He actually staggered back a step. 12, you've known since you were 16 and never said anything? Who would I tell? You? Mom and Dad? The family that was already treating me like I didn't belong? I felt my voice sharpening. I found love letters, Marcus. Hidden away like guilty secrets. Richard Holbrook, remember him? Dad's old friend who moved to Oregon right before I was born? Mom was in love with him. She wrote about leaving Dad, taking me, starting over. But she didn't. No. Richard didn't want the responsibility. So she stayed, and Dad either never knew or pretended not to, and I became the daughter who was always just slightly wrong. Not quite fitting. Never quite enough. Marcus looked like I'd slapped him. Maybe I had, in a way. That's why you left, he said slowly. Not just the money. The money was the excuse. The proof. 40,000 for you, 120 for me, it just made it obvious what I already knew. I don't matter to them the way you do. Jenna, go home, Marcus. Tell them I meant every word. And don't come back here. I closed the door. Through the wood, I heard him stand there for a long moment. Then footsteps. Then nothing. David came home to find me on the couch, staring at nothing. Marcus showed up, I said. He set down his briefcase. And? I told him about Dad. Everything. How did he take it? Like someone who just found out his family is built on lies. I drew my knees up. He's probably telling them right now that I confirmed it. That should be fun. David sat beside me, careful and quiet. He's good at reading my moods, knowing when to push and when to just exist alongside me. Do you regret it? Did I? I'd spent 12 years carrying that secret like a stone in my chest. Now it was out there, detonating through the family, and I felt. No, I said. I don't regret it. Even knowing what it'll do to them? Especially knowing that. He nodded. We sat there as the afternoon light slanted through the windows, golden and indifferent, while somewhere across town my family was probably tearing itself apart. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The emails started the next day. Not from Mom or Dad, they didn't have my new email address, the one I created 6 months ago and slowly been transitioning everything to. But Marcus had it from when I'd sent him David's grandmother's cookie recipe last Christmas, and apparently he'd shared it. Subject: we need to talk, Jenna. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But you can't just abandon family like this. We can work this out. Please call me. Mom, delete. Subject: you're making a huge mistake. This isn't just about money. Do you understand what you're doing? Your mother is devastated. I'm not saying we were perfect, but you're tearing this family apart over something that happened before you were born. Be mature about this. Dad, mature. That word again. Like maturity meant accepting mistreatment with a smile. Delete. Subject: please, at least talk to Marcus. He's trying to understand. We all are. You can't just disappear and expect us to figure this out on our own. Mom again. But that was exactly what I expected. What I wanted. For them to figure out their own lives without using me as a crutch. Delete. 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 David watched me clearing them out over breakfast. You could block their email addresses too. I like seeing how desperate they're getting. That's cold. 6 years, David. 6 years of just this once and we'll pay you back, and family helps family. You know how many times they paid me back? 0. 0. I took a bite of toast. And now they're learning what it feels like to need help and not get it. Your coworkers are asking about you, he said after a pause. Rachel called me yesterday. Wanted to know if you were okay. Rachel was my work friend, the one who'd listened to me vent about my family over lunch more times than I could count. What did you tell her? That you were dealing with family stuff and you'd be back Monday. Monday. 4 days away. I'd taken 3 days off, using vacation time I'd been hoarding. The plan was to lie low, let the initial explosion settle, then go back to normal life. Except nothing about this felt normal. I should check my bank account, I said. Make sure they haven't tried anything. I'd changed all my passwords 2 weeks ago, added two-factor authentication to everything, and removed Mom and Dad from any authorized user list they'd somehow gotten onto over the years. Still, paranoia was a reasonable response when dealing with desperate people. Everything was fine. Untouched. $5,492 sitting there like a small monument to my freedom. David refilled my coffee. You remember my cousin Alicia? The lawyer? The one who did your will? She specializes in family law, elder care, financial abuse cases. If your parents try to sue you or claim you owed them that money, they won't. But if they do, they won't, I repeated, more firmly. Because that would require admitting to a judge that they've been financially dependent on their daughter for 6 years while making a combined $115,000 a year. Questions would be asked. Records would be examined. And Dad's truck that he paid cash for last year? The one he told the loan company he was still making payments on? That looks a lot like fraud. David paused mid-sip. He did what? I found the paperwork. He refinanced some fake loan to get a tax deduction for business expenses. I smiled thinly. They're not going to sue me, David. They're going to shut up and figure out their own mess, because the alternative is me making their financial crimes very public. Oh my gosh. You really did your homework. I had 6 years to get ready. Friday brought a new development. I was at Target, buying actual groceries instead of the takeout David and I had been living on, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Jenna? A woman's voice. Older. Unfamiliar. Who is this? My name is Patricia Holbrook. I'm Richard's wife. The cart handle went slippery under my palms. Richard. The affair. The man who was probably my biological father. How did you get my number? Your mother called me yesterday. She was upset. Crying. She told me what you'd found, what you'd said in your letter. Patricia's voice was steady, matter of fact. She wanted me to know it was all lies. That nothing happened between her and Richard. But something did happen. Yes. A pause. It did. I abandoned my cart in the cereal aisle and walked outside, into the parking lot where the November air bit at my face. You knew? I've known for 28 years. Richard told me when your mother called him, pregnant, asking him to leave me. Patricia laughed quietly. He chose our marriage. We worked through it. Your mother chose hers. These things happen. These things, I couldn't even finish the sentence. Why are you calling me? Because your mother is telling people you're lying. Dragging Richard's name through the mud for some revenge fantasy. And I won't have that. Steel entered her voice. If you have evidence, the letters, anything, I want you to keep them safe. Richard passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. But his reputation matters to me, and I won't let her rewrite history to make herself look better. I have the letters. And photos. There was a whole stack of them. Good. Keep them. And if your mother tries to claim you fabricated this, you let me know. I'll set the record straight. Why would you help me? Because Richard made mistakes, but he owned them. Your mother is doing the opposite, and I've had 28 years to watch her play the victim while I did the actual work of fixing my marriage. Patricia's voice softened slightly. And because you deserved better than what you got. All of this, it's not your fault. Something cracked open in my chest. Some small, hard place I hadn't even known was closed. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. Your mother is vicious when she's cornered. Watch yourself. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there in the Target parking lot, phone clutched in my hand, while strangers pushed carts past me and a minivan honked because I was blocking a spot. My mother was telling people I was lying. Of course she was. The weekend passed in strange suspension. David's apartment became a bunker, and we fell into rhythms that felt like playing house, cooking together, watching old movies, making love in the quiet morning hours when the world outside felt distant and theoretical. But Monday came anyway. The office was its usual controlled chaos, phones ringing, keyboards clattering, Rachel waving at me from her desk with a sympathetic smile that meant she'd heard something but didn't know what. My boss, Linda, called me into her office at 10 a.m. How are you holding up? She asked, gesturing for me to sit. I'm fine. Family stuff is handled. Good. Because we need you on the riverfront project and Jax has been drowning without your input. Linda leaned back, studying me. You look different. Different how? Lighter. Like you dropped 50 pounds between Thursday and today. She wasn't wrong. I'd been noticing it myself, the absence of that constant low-grade anxiety, the nagging guilt, the sense that I was always behind on some obligation I couldn't quite name. Just dealt with some overdue housekeeping, I said. Linda nodded slowly. Well, whatever you did, keep doing it. You look like yourself again. I hadn't realized I'd stopped being myself. But she was right. For 6 years I'd been slowly disappearing under the weight of my parents' expectations and Marcus's careless privilege and my own inability to say no. Now I was back. Rachel cornered me at lunch. Okay, spill. You look amazing and also like you just won the lottery and also like you maybe murdered someone. What happened? I told her. Not everything, not the affair, not the biological father bombshell, but the money. The wedding disparity. The note. The cutoff. Her eyes got wider with every sentence. Oh my, she breathed when I finished. You really did that. I really did. And you're just done? No second thoughts? None. Jenna, that's incredible. She leaned forward. Do you know how many people complain about their families and never actually do anything? They just suffer and vent and suffer some more. But you actually drew a line. It was long overdue. Still. I'm proud of you. She raised her soda can in a mock toast. To boundaries and consequences. To boundaries and consequences, I echoed. We clicked cans and drank, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I let myself feel proud too. The next contact came Wednesday night. David and I were making dinner: pasta, salad, garlic bread, the kind of simple meal that feels luxurious when you're cooking it with someone you love, when the apartment building's call box buzzed. We both froze. "Don't answer it," David said immediately. But I walked to the intercom anyway. "Yes?" Static. "Then, Jenna, it's your dad. Let me up." My finger hovered over the button. David was shaking his head frantically, mouthing no, no, no. "I'm calling from David's apartment," I said into the speaker. "You're trespassing. Leave or I'm calling the police. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. You had 28 years to talk to me like I mattered. Time's up." I released the button. Walked back to the kitchen. Picked up the wooden spoon and stirred the pasta sauce like my hands weren't shaking. David wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You okay?" He drove 40 minutes to ambush me at my fiancé's apartment. He's never even asked where David lives. Never cared. But now that his mortgage is on the line, he cares, David finished. He cares about his house. Not me. The intercom stayed silent. After 10 minutes, David went downstairs to check. Came back shaking his head. "His truck's gone. He'll try again." "Maybe." "Definitely." David pulled out plates, and we served dinner in the quiet that comes after dodging a bullet. The pasta was perfect. The salad was crisp. The garlic bread was golden. And my phone stayed blessedly silent. Thursday I got a Facebook message. I rarely checked Facebook anymore. It was mostly old high school acquaintances posting baby photos and political rants, but I'd forgotten to delete the app after blocking my family, and apparently Mom had found a workaround. I talked to Richard's widow. "She told me you've been in contact. I want you to know that whatever Patricia said, she's lying to hurt me. She's been jealous for 30 years. None of what you found was real. I would never do that to your father. Please come home so we can talk about this like adults. I love you. Mom." 3 lies in 4 sentences. Impressive efficiency. I screenshot the message and sent it to Patricia Holbrook's email address, which she'd given me before hanging up Friday. Added a note: "Thought you should see this." Her response came within an hour. "Expected. Don't engage. She's trying to isolate you from anyone who knows the truth. Classic manipulation tactic. You're doing great. Patricia." 2 sentences of validation from a stranger, and I felt steadier than I had from years of my mother's conditional affection. David found me staring at my phone. More family drama? Mom's trying to convince me that Patricia is the liar and the affair never happened. Even though you have physical evidence. Even though. So she's gaslighting you. Aggressively. He took my phone and set it face down on the counter. "Stop reading their messages. You're letting them live in your head rent-free." I thought I was done with supporting freeloaders. He smiled. Kissed my forehead. Exactly. The weekend brought an unexpected ally. Marcus showed up again, this time with advance warning via a carefully worded text asking if he could talk to me. No ambush. No demands. Just a question. I met him at a coffee shop halfway between David's place and my parents' house. Neutral territory. He looked worse than last time. Thinner. Exhausted. His wedding ring caught the light as he wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. "Sarah wants to know what's happening," he said without preamble. Sarah, his wife, the one whose $40,000 dream wedding had been the final straw. "What did you tell her?" "Everything." He met my eyes. "About the money you've been paying? The wedding cost difference? The affair? All of it?" "How'd she take it?" "She threw up," he laughed hollowly. Then she started crying. "She had no idea our wedding cost that much, Jenna. Mom and Dad told her it was $20,000, that they'd been saving up. She thought your wedding was just smaller because you wanted it that way. Of course they lied to her. She feels horrible. She wants to pay you back." "No." "Jenna, no," I repeated firmly. "This isn't about Sarah. She didn't know. I don't blame her. But I'm not taking money from you two to make everyone feel better about what Mom and Dad did." Marcus slumped in his chair. "They're going to lose the house. Then they'll lose it." "You really don't care?" I considered the question. Really thought about it. I care that they're scared. I care that they're facing consequences. But do I care enough to fix it for them? No. Not anymore. What about us? Me and you? That was harder. Marcus had been a careless older brother, oblivious to the inequity but not malicious. He'd benefited from their favoritism without questioning it, but he'd also never actively hurt me. I don't know yet, I said honestly. You're not them. But you enabled them. You watched them treat me like an ATM and never said anything. I didn't realize, that's the problem. You didn't realize because you didn't have to. I finished my coffee. I need space, Marcus. From all of you. Maybe someday we can have a relationship that's separate from mom and dad. But not now. He nodded slowly. Sarah wanted me to tell you she's sorry. And that if you ever want to talk, she's here. Tell her thank you. And Mom found your birth certificate. The original one from the hospital. My stomach dropped. And? Dad's name is on it. James Crawford, Father. She's using it as proof that you're wrong about everything. Birth certificates can be wrong. The biological father doesn't have to be listed. I know. I told her that. She didn't want to hear it. Marcus stood, leaving his half-finished coffee. I believe you, Jenna. For what it's worth. About the affair, about everything. I found some old photos in the basement. Mom and Richard together at some barbecue. The way they're looking at each other, nobody looks at a friend like that. Thanks for telling me. Yeah. He hesitated. You were right to leave. I just wish you hadn't had to. He walked out, and I sat there surrounded by the comfortable noise of the coffee shop, espresso machines hissing, conversations overlapping, someone's laptop playing lo-fi music too loud, and let myself grieve for the brother I might have had if our parents had been different people. November turned into December. The holidays loomed like a minefield I'd have to navigate. My parents' annual Christmas Eve party was legendary in their circle, elaborate decorations, catered food, eggnog that Dad spiked too heavily while Mom pretended to disapprove. I'd helped plan it for years, coordinating dishes and decorations and music playlists. This year, I wouldn't even be invited. David noticed me getting quieter as Christmas approached. You want to talk about it? There's a relief in not having to perform anymore, I said. No forcing smiles. No pretending everything's fine while they show off Marcus's accomplishments and barely mention mine. But there's also this weird sadness. Like I'm mourning something I never actually had. The family you deserved. Yeah. We'll make our own traditions, he said. Just us. And maybe Rachel and her husband if you want company. But no obligation. No performance. That sounds perfect. And it did. Quiet Christmas morning, homemade breakfast, presents that were thoughtful instead of expensive. A relationship built on actual care instead of guilt and obligation. The fantasy sustained me through the first snowfall, through the office holiday party, through Rachel's concerned questions about whether I'd reconciled with my family yet. No, I told her. And I don't plan to. Not even for Christmas? Especially not for Christmas. She didn't understand. Most people wouldn't. The cultural narrative said family was forever, forgiveness was noble, holidays were for reconciliation. But I'd learned that sometimes the most loving thing you could do was walk away. The lawyer letter arrived December 18th. David brought in the mail, saw the return address from some law firm in my parents' town, and his face went carefully blank. Jenna. I took the envelope. Opened it with steady hands even though my heart was rabbiting in my chest. Dear Miss Crawford, we represent James and Diane Crawford regarding a dispute over financial obligations and verbal agreements made between 2018 and 2024. They were suing me. For the money. Claiming we'd had an understanding that I would help with their expenses, that it constituted an implied contract, that my sudden withdrawal of support had caused them financial hardship and emotional distress. They were asking for $150,000 in damages. I read it twice. Then I started laughing. David looked alarmed. Jenna? They're suing me for money I voluntarily gave them. For breaking an agreement that never existed in writing. For causing them emotional distress. I was still laughing, a little hysterically now. They think they're going to win. Can they? Not a chance. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the contact information David's cousin had given me weeks ago. But I need Alicia. Now. The call lasted an hour. Alicia listened to everything, the 6 years of payments, the lack of written agreements, the sudden cutoff, the lawsuit threat. Her questions were sharp and specific. Do you have records of every transfer? Yes. Bank statements going back to the first payment. Any texts or emails where they promised to pay you back? Dozens. Any evidence they paid you back even once? None, because they never did. What's their combined annual income? Around $115,000. A low whistle. And they're claiming financial dependence on their 28-year-old daughter's voluntary support? Apparently. This is the easiest case I'd all year. Don't respond to the letter. I'll handle it. If they want to go to court, we'll be delighted to show a judge exactly how much money they make versus how much they've been extracting from you. She paused. There's something else, isn't there? Some reason they're particularly desperate? I told her about the affair. The biological father reveal. My mother's current campaign to paint me as a liar. Another pause. Then, you buried a lead. That's the nuclear option if they push this. We won't lead with it, but if they try to claim you're making things up or acting irrationally, we can demonstrate a decades-long pattern of deception and favoritism that explains your actions perfectly. I don't want to destroy them. You want to be left alone? Yes. Then that's what will get you. I'll draft a response tonight. With any luck, their lawyer will take one look at the evidence and advise them to drop it before they embarrass themselves in court. She was right. The lawsuit threat disappeared within a week, withdrawn with no explanation. Alicia sent me a brief email. They realize they have no case. You're in the clear. Merry Christmas. I forwarded it to David with a single word: victory. Christmas morning was everything I'd hoped for. David made his grandmother's cinnamon rolls, the ones that took 3 days of preparation and tasted like childhood and safety. We opened presents in our pajamas, the apartment smelling of cinnamon and coffee. He gave me a necklace with a small compass pendant. So you always know which direction you're heading. I gave him a framed photo I'd secretly taken at his job site, him in his hard hat and safety vest, looking at blueprints with this expression of intense concentration. So you remember how capable you are. We both got a little teary. Rachel and her husband Mike came over around noon with a ham and too much wine, and we played board games and watched terrible holiday movies and never once mentioned my family. It was perfect. It was healing. It was mine. January brought closure from an unexpected direction. Patricia Holbrook called me on the 5th, right as I was settling back into work after the holiday break. I thought you should know that your mother contacted me again. Much angrier this time. Threatening to sue me for defamation if I kept spreading lies about her and Richard. What did you do? I sent her copies of the letters. All of them. The ones Richard kept, the ones he showed me when he confessed. 28 years I've had them in a box in my attic, evidence of the worst year of my marriage. Patricia's voice was steady, but I could hear the steel underneath. I told her if she wanted to sue anyone, she could sue her former lover for being sentimental enough to keep proof of their affair. Oh my gosh. She hasn't responded. I don't think she will. The last thing she wants is those letters becoming public record in a courtroom. Thank you, I said quietly. For backing me up. For not letting her gaslight everyone. Richard made his choices. I made mine. Your mother made hers. A pause. But you're still making yours, Jenna. You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. Don't spend it looking backward at people who never deserved you. I won't. Good. Now I'm going to box these letters back up and forget about them for another 28 years. But if you need them, for court, for your own peace of mind, whatever, they're here. She hung up before I could get emotional. I sat at my desk, surrounded by the ordinary chaos of a Monday morning, and felt something settle in my chest. The last piece of doubt, the little voice that wondered if maybe I was wrong, if maybe I'd overreacted. Gone. February brought Marcus back into my life, tentatively. He texted first. Sarah and I are doing marriage counseling. Working through some stuff. I wanted you to know I get it now. Why you left. Our therapist says I've been complicit in their dysfunction by refusing to see it. I responded, I'm glad you're getting help. Can we talk sometime? No pressure. Just coffee. Maybe. Not yet. Okay. I'll wait. And he did. No follow-up texts. No guilt trips. Just space, which was more than he'd ever given me before. David noticed me reading the exchange. You going to see him? Eventually. When I'm ready. I set my phone down. He's trying. That's more than Mom and Dad are doing. They've given up? Seems like it. No calls, no emails, no lawyer letters. Either they've accepted it or they're regrouping for another attack. Smart money's on regrouping. Probably. I leaned into him. But I'm ready this time. Whatever they try. March proved David right. A friend request on LinkedIn from my mother. Professional, public, harder to ignore than Facebook. The message attached was brief: "I'm sorry for how things ended. Can we talk?" I declined the request without responding. An email from my father's work address, like he thought using office infrastructure would somehow make it more legitimate: "Your mother is depressed. Doctor put her on medication. This has gone too far. Please call." Delete. A card in the mail, forwarded from my old address to David's apartment. They must have gotten it from somewhere. Inside, a check for $120. "We want to make things right." I tore up the check and threw away the card. They were trying everything. Different angles, different tactics. Apologies and guilt trips and medical updates and money. Throwing things at the wall to see what stuck. Nothing stuck. Because I'd built something better. A life with David, career momentum at work, friendships that didn't require me to set myself on fire to keep other people warm. Every day without them was a day I got stronger, clearer, more certain that I'd made the right choice. April brought Marcus back for real. We met at the same coffee shop, 6 months after the last time. He looked better, healthier, calmer. His wedding ring was still there, but so was something else. Confidence, maybe. Or just the peace that comes from finally seeing the truth. "Sarah's pregnant," he said after we'd ordered. "Congratulations." "Thank you." He studied his coffee. "I've been thinking about what kind of father I want to be. What kind of family I want to build. And I don't want to be like them." "Good." "I'm not asking you to forgive them. Or even to forgive me, really. But I want you to know that I'm working on it. Being better. Seeing things clearly. And if you ever want to be part of my kid's life, as an aunt, as a person who exists, I'd like that." It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. "I'd like that too," I admitted. "But it can't include mom and dad. If I'm going to be in your kid's life, they can't be manipulating behind the scenes." Sarah and I already decided. We're keeping boundaries with them. Supervised visits only. They're upset about it, but that's not our problem anymore. "You sound like me 6 months ago." I learned from the best. He smiled, sad and real. "I'm sorry it took me this long to get here. Better late than never." We talked for 2 hours. About his therapy revelations, about Sarah's pregnancy symptoms, about the house they were buying and the life they were planning. He asked about David, about my job, about my own plans for the future. It felt like talking to a different person. Or maybe just my brother without our parents' shadow between us. When we left, he hugged me. "Thank you for not giving up on me entirely. Thank you for showing up." "I'll keep showing up. I promise." I believed him. May brought something I hadn't expected: peace. Not the dramatic, movie ending kind where everything wrapped up neatly with a bow. Just the ordinary peace of waking up and realizing you'd stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. My parents had gone quiet. Whether they'd accepted defeat or were just too exhausted to keep fighting, I didn't know and didn't care. Marcus checked in weekly with updates about the baby, about his growing boundaries, about the life he was building separate from their dysfunction. David proposed on a Saturday morning in May, nothing fancy, just us in the apartment, coffee and sunshine, and him dropping to one knee with a ring his grandmother had worn. "I know you already said yes last year, but I wanted to do it right this time. No family drama. No competing for attention. Just us." I said yes again, crying and laughing, and we celebrated by ordering takeout and watching movies in bed like we'd done the night I left the note. Simple. Perfect. Ours. Work promoted me to senior account manager. Rachel threw me a surprise party with a cake that said congratulations on boundaries and career success. I started therapy, not because I was falling apart, but because I wanted to understand how I'd let things get so bad for so long. My therapist, Dr. Reeves, nodded when I told her the story. Children of narcissists often don't recognize the abuse until they're out of it. You extract it yourself. That takes tremendous strength. I don't feel strong. I feel angry. Anger is appropriate. It's healthy. Use it to build something better. So I did. David and I planned a wedding for September. Small, intimate, at a vineyard 2 hours north. Just friends and David's family and Marcus with Sarah and their newborn daughter, Emma. Not my parents. Not even an invitation. Rachel asked if I was sure. What if you regret it later? I won't. But they're your parents. They're the people who raised me, I corrected. That doesn't mean they earned a place at my wedding. Not after everything. She hugged me. You're braver than I am. No. Just more done with other people's expectations. The wedding was everything I wanted. Sunshine and wine and laughter. David's vows made me cry, good tears, happy tears, the kind that come from being completely loved by someone who sees you clearly. My vows were simpler: you made me brave enough to build the life I deserved. Thank you for showing me what family could be. Marcus stood beside David as best man, holding Emma, who cooed through the ceremony. Sarah hugged me afterward, whispering, "I'm so glad you didn't give up on him." He gave me a reason not to. We danced until the stars came out. Ate too much cake. Took a million photos. Rachel got drunk and gave a toast about boundaries and self-respect that made everyone laugh and several people cry. And through it all, I didn't think about my parents once. Not about whether they knew what day it was. Not about whether they were hurt or angry or regretful. Not about the wedding they'd funded for Marcus versus the one I'd funded myself. I'd stopped carrying them months ago, and the lightness was intoxicating. October, 1 year after the note, brought an unexpected letter. Not from my parents. From Richard Holbrook's estate lawyer. Dear Ms. Crawford, I am writing to inform you that Richard James Holbrook passed away in 2022, as you may know. In his final will, executed in 2021, he left a bequest to any biological children not previously acknowledged. After reviewing the documentation provided by Mrs. Patricia Holbrook and conducting the required DNA verification through samples held by the estate, we have confirmed that you are Richard Holbrook's biological daughter. For the terms of the will, you are entitled to a portion of his estate. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to discuss the details. I read it 3 times. David found me on the couch, staring at the letter. What is it? Richard left me money. In his will. He knew about me. How much? I looked at the figure the lawyer had included. Enough to pay for our entire wedding. And then some. That's, oh goodness. He knew, I repeated. All these years, he knew I existed, and he left me something? Not his name, not his public acknowledgement, but something. How do you feel about it? I don't know. I folded the letter carefully. He was never my father. He didn't raise me, didn't know me. But he remembered me anyway. That's more than the man who did raise me ever did. We sat there in the quiet, processing this strange coda to a story I thought was finished. Eventually David said, "What are you going to do with it?" Take it. Use some for our honeymoon. Save the rest. Maybe start a college fund for Emma. I leaned against him. And never tell my parents. They don't get to know about this. It's mine. Agreed. The next morning I called the lawyer and started the process. Signed papers. Provided documentation. Arranged for the transfer of funds that Richard Holbrook had set aside for a daughter he'd never met but somehow hadn't forgotten. It felt like life was saying I'd been right all along. That I deserved better. That walking away had been worth it. November brought the final confrontation I'd been expecting for a year. My mother showed up at my office. Linda called me with a warning. There's a woman in the lobby claiming to be your mother. Want me to have security remove her? I'll handle it. I went down, and there she was. Diane Crawford, thinner than I remembered, older looking. Wearing the blue coat I'd bought her 3 Christmases ago. You can't avoid me forever, she said. I've done a pretty good job for a year. I want to talk. Privately. Against my better judgment, I led her to a conference room. Closed the door. Stood by it instead of sitting, a clear signal this wouldn't take long. What do you want? To apologize. To explain. She twisted her hands together. Your father and I have been struggling. Really struggling. We might lose the house. Stop. I held up a hand. I don't care about the house. Or your struggles. You had a year to figure things out, and apparently you're still trying to manipulate me into fixing them. That's not, it is. You're not here to apologize. You're here because you need money and you think if you look pathetic enough, I'll cave. I crossed my arms. I won't. You've always been so cold, she said, and there it was. The real her underneath the performance. Even as a child. So difficult. I tried my best with you. Your best was treating me like a second-class citizen because I reminded you of your affair. Her face went white. That's not true. It is true. And you know it. Every time you looked at me, you saw Richard. Saw your guilt. Saw the life you didn't choose. So you took it out on me by favoring Marcus, by using me as an ATM, by making me feel like I had to earn love you should have given freely. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You made choices. Bad ones. And instead of dealing with the consequences, you punished me for existing. I opened the door. We're done here. Don't come to my workplace again. Don't call. Don't write. I've built a life without you, and it's better than anything you could have given me. Jenna, please, no. I walked out. Left her standing in that conference room, probably waiting for me to come back, to soften, to be the daughter who fixed everything. I didn't go back. Linda met me at my desk. You okay? Perfect. Good. Because you've got the riverfront presentation in an hour and I need you sharp. I'm sharp. And I was. Sharper than I'd ever been. December came full circle. Our first Christmas as a married couple. David's parents joined us, warm, kind people who'd welcomed me with open arms and never once asked why my family wasn't around. We cooked too much food, played games, watched Emma grab at ornaments with her tiny hands while Marcus and Sarah laughed. This was family. Chosen, built, earned. Rachel video called from her parents' house. How's the peaceful Christmas? Perfect. Any regrets? Not one. And I meant it. Later, after everyone had gone home and David was loading the dishwasher, I found myself looking at the compass necklace he'd given me last year. North. Forward. The direction I'd chosen when I left that note. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't look. I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family. Mom. I deleted it without responding. Because she was wrong. I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd stopped holding together something that was already broken, and in doing so, I'd freed myself to build something whole. David came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. Everything okay? Everything's perfect. Good year? Best year of my life. And standing there in our apartment, surrounded by the evidence of the life we built together, photos on the walls, books on the shelves, a kitchen full of food we'd made for people we loved, I knew it was true. The revenge I'd taken wasn't dramatic. Wasn't explosive. It was simply this, living well without them. Building something better. Refusing to let their dysfunction define my future. That was the real payback. Not the money I'd kept, not the secrets I'd revealed, not the boundaries I'd drawn. It was my happiness. And they would never take it from me again. 2 years later, Marcus's daughter Emma said her first word, Jenna. Sarah sent me a video, tears in her eyes. She sees you as family. Real family. I watched it a dozen times, this tiny person who bore no blame for the past, reaching for me with pure love. David and I had started the adoption process. Building our own family the way we wanted, with intention and care and all the lessons I'd learned from what not to do. Patricia Holbrook sent Christmas cards now. Brief, friendly, the kind of thing you send to someone you respect but don't know well. I sent them back. And my parents? I had no idea what happened to them. They'd faded into irrelevance, which was exactly where they belonged. Sometimes people ask me if I feel guilty. If I regret cutting them off. I tell them the truth, I regret spending 28 years trying to be enough for people who would never see me that way. But leaving them behind? That I'd do again in a heartbeat. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful that they realize exactly what they lost. And then living it, every single day, without looking back.
Story 3.
My mom canceled my son's high school graduation party because my sister's twins might feel jealous since they're only in 8th grade. She looked at my son and said, "You understand, right? We can't make them feel bad." My son's face fell. I didn't argue. We packed our bags and left town the next morning without telling anyone. A year later, my nephew saw Instagram posts of my son thriving at his new elite school, honor roll, varsity team, smiling in every photo. My sister had a complete breakdown at Christmas dinner, sobbing that I was rubbing their faces in it. My dad called me selfish for tearing the family apart. I just smiled and I stood in my childhood kitchen watching Mom fuss over the seating chart for what was supposed to be my son's graduation party. Her finger traced invisible lines across the granite countertop, rearranging phantom guests. "If we put the twins here," she murmured, "they won't have to see the cake. Actually, maybe we shouldn't do a cake at all." My stomach dropped. "Mom. It's a graduation party." She looked up, And I recognized that expression, the one that meant she'd already made her decision and was just waiting for everyone else to catch up. Honey, I've been thinking. She set down her phone. Maybe we should postpone. Just until August, when the twins start high school. Then it won't feel so. Postpone my son's graduation party until 3 months after he's already graduated. It's not postponing, it's just shifting the timing to be more sensitive. To who? To Marcus? He earned this. Mom's jaw tightened. Your sister called me yesterday. She's worried about how the boys will handle it. They're already struggling with the transition to high school, and watching their cousins celebrate something they haven't achieved yet might trigger some insecurity. I'd heard variations of this speech my entire life. When I made varsity soccer sophomore year, we couldn't celebrate because my sister had just been cut from JV. When I got into Stanford, we had a quiet dinner at home instead of the restaurant Mom had promised because Sarah was still waiting to hear from her safety schools. When I got engaged, Mom suggested a small ceremony so Sarah, newly single, wouldn't feel uncomfortable. The pattern was old and worn, comfortable as a favorite sweater for everyone except me. Marcus appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder. He'd grown 4 inches this year and still moved like he wasn't quite sure where his limbs ended. Gran, did you want me to pick up the chairs tomorrow, or, sweetie? Mom crossed to him, took both his hands. I need to talk to you about something. I watched his face, the way his smile started to fade before she even finished speaking. We're thinking about maybe not doing the party this weekend. Just for a little while. Your cousins are going through a tough time right now, and we don't want them to feel bad watching everyone celebrate you. You understand, right? We can't make them feel bad. The silence stretched. Marcus looked at her, then at me, then back at her. Sure, he said finally. Whatever. But I saw it, the slight slump in his shoulders, the way his hand tightened on his backpack strap. The exact same micro-expression I'd perfected at his age, the one that said, of course, I understand, I always understand. He headed upstairs without another word. Mom turned to me with obvious relief. See? He gets it. He's such a mature kid, you've raised him so well. When's Sarah's twins' graduation party? The question came out flat. She blinked. What? When they graduate 8th grade in 3 weeks. I assume we're throwing them a party? Mom's face did something complicated. Well, that's different. They're moving up to high school, it's a big milestone. So is graduating high school. Of course it is, I'm not saying it isn't, I just think we need to be sensitive about the timing. You're right. I grabbed my purse from the counter. We do need to be sensitive about timing. Thank you. She exhaled. I knew you'd understand once you thought about it rationally. I didn't correct her. Upstairs, I found Marcus lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. His acceptance letter from Riverside Academy was still pinned to his bulletin board, the private school 2 hours north that had offered him a partial scholarship for academics and a spot on their nationally ranked debate team. He'd been so careful about it, asking if we could afford the remaining tuition, making spreadsheets of costs, researching part-time jobs he could take on campus. Pack a bag, I said. He sat up. What? Essentials only. We'll come back for the rest later. Mom, do you trust me? He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. It took 20 minutes. I threw clothes into suitcases while making phone calls. First to my boss, explaining I needed to start working remotely immediately, family emergency, I'd have my assignments done on deadline, no, I couldn't discuss details. Then to Riverside Academy's admissions office, where I left a voicemail accepting Marcus's spot for fall and asking about summer orientation options. Then I called my landlord about breaking the lease early on our apartment across town. We'd been there 2 years, close enough to family for weekly dinners, far enough that I could breathe. Not far enough, apparently. Marcus emerged with a duffel bag and his laptop. Are we really doing this? We're really doing this. Mom was on the phone when we came downstairs, laughing at something. She covered the receiver when she saw us. Are you going home? I was thinking tomorrow we could look at, where are you going with all that? We're leaving. The laughter drained from her face. Leaving what? This. All of it. I gestured vaguely at the house, the town beyond it, the entire invisible architecture of family obligation that had been slowly crushing me for 38 years. Marcus got into Riverside Academy. We're moving. You can't, that's 2 hours away. I know. But what about Sunday dinners? What about the holidays? What about Marcus's graduation party? My voice stayed level. The one we're canceling so the twins don't feel bad? Mom's mouth opened and closed. That's not fair. I already explained. You did. And I understand. We're just not staying for the explanation. Sarah. Mom called toward the stairs, voice shaking. Sarah, come down here. My sister appeared, phone in hand, wearing the yoga pants and oversized sweater that had become her uniform since the divorce. What's wrong? Your sister is leaving. She's taking Marcus and moving 2 hours away, and she won't listen to reason. What? Sarah's eyes went wide. You can't do that. What about Mom? What about her? She needs us. We're her support system. The laugh escaped before I could stop it. Her support system. Right. Don't be cruel, Sarah said. You know how hard it's been for her since Dad retired. We're all she has. She has you. She's always had you. Sarah's face flushed. That's not fair. Just because Mom and I are close doesn't mean she loves you less. I never said anything about love. I picked up my suitcase. Come on, Marcus. Mom grabbed my arm. You can't just leave like this. We need to talk about this as a family. We did talk about it. You canceled my son's graduation party. I made a decision. That's the conversation. We didn't cancel it, we postponed, for 3 months. After he's already graduated. To protect the twins' feelings. I gently removed her hand from my arm. I'm done protecting everyone's feelings except his. You're being selfish, Sarah said. Her voice had gone sharp, the way it always did when she wasn't getting her way. Mom has done everything for you, for both of us, and the one time she asks you to be considerate. The one time. I let that sit in the air between us. The one time. Sarah's jaw tightened. You always do this. You always make everything about you. Your accomplishments, your son, your feelings. Some of us have real problems. I know you do. I've spent my entire life being told about them. I'm not doing this. I headed for the door. Marcus followed, silent, his face carefully blank in that way that broke my heart. We'll be in touch about picking up the rest of our stuff. If you leave now, Mom said, voice trembling, don't expect us to be here when you change your mind. I stopped at the threshold. For just a moment, I considered explaining. Listing every birthday, every achievement, every moment of pride that had been diminished or delayed or dismissed entirely to avoid making Sarah feel bad. The college graduation we didn't celebrate. The job promotion I couldn't mention. The way I'd learned to make myself smaller, quieter, less successful so my little sister wouldn't feel overshadowed. Instead, I said, okay. The door closed behind us with a soft click that felt louder than a slam. We drove for an hour before Marcus spoke. Are we really not going back? I glanced at him. His face was illuminated by the highway lights, sliding past in rhythm. Do you want to go back? I don't know. He pulled at a loose thread on his jeans. Gran looked really upset. She did. Was it wrong? What we did? I thought about how to answer that. Do you remember when you were 10 and you won the science fair? Yeah. Remember how Gran said we should keep the trophy at home instead of bringing it to Sunday dinner because the twins had just lost their soccer tournament? His brow furrowed. I thought you agreed with that. I did. And the year before that, when you won the spelling bee, we didn't go out for ice cream because the twins were having trouble with reading and Gran thought it would be insensitive. And when you made honor roll, we celebrated quietly at home. I remember. I told myself I was teaching you humility. Being considerate of other people's feelings. I merged into the right lane. But what I was actually teaching you is that your accomplishments only matter if they don't make anyone else uncomfortable. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Is that what happened to you? Every single time. And you never said anything? I said plenty. It never changed anything. Sarah needed support, or Mom needed peace, or it just wasn't the right time. There's never a right time, turns out. I looked at him again. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to learn how to make yourself small. But Gran really did look upset. I know. She'll be more upset for a while. Maybe a long while. The highway stretched out ahead of us, dark and endless. But she'll survive. And more importantly, so will you. We stopped at a hotel near campus around midnight. I called ahead from a rest stop, booked a suite with 2 beds and a tiny kitchenette. Marcus collapsed onto his mattress fully clothed and was asleep within minutes. I sat by the window, looking out at an unfamiliar city, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not happiness, exactly. But the space where happiness might eventually grow. Riverside Academy's campus was all red brick and old trees, the kind of place that appeared in brochures for tradition and excellence. We met with the admissions counselor the next morning, a thin woman named Patricia who wore reading glasses on a chain and smiled like she'd heard every family crisis story there was. "You'll need to complete the enrollment packet by Friday," she said, sliding papers across her desk. "Since Marcus applied during regular admission and we're past the deadline, we'll need to confirm everything is in order. Housing won't be available until August, but we can connect you with local rental resources. We'll figure it out." I signed forms, initialed boxes, barely reading them. Patricia studied me over her glasses. "Are you all right, Ms. Morrison?" "I'm fine." "You seem a bit." She gestured vaguely. "Homeless? Unemployed? Making possibly the worst decision of my life?" I was going to say stressed. I laughed, surprising myself. "That too." She pulled out another folder. "The good news is that Marcus's application was exceptional. His essay on debate strategy and rhetorical analysis was one of the strongest we received this year. I don't know if he told you, but our debate team ranked third nationally last year. He'll be training with some of the best high school debaters in the country." Marcus, sitting beside me, went slightly pink. I didn't know it ranked that high. "You didn't ask," Patricia said mildly. "Students who are serious about debate often get recruited by top universities. Yale, Harvard, Princeton, they all send scouts to our tournaments." I watched my son's face transform, saw the possibilities opening up behind his eyes. This was what I'd wanted. This exact moment. "Thank you," I said to Patricia. "For taking him. Thank you for accepting our offer. We're lucky to have him." We spent the rest of the day apartment hunting. By evening, we'd signed a lease on a 2-bedroom place 3 blocks from campus, more expensive than I'd wanted, smaller than I'd hoped, but available immediately. The landlord agreed to let us move in that night if we didn't mind sleeping on air mattresses until our furniture arrived. Marcus stood in his empty bedroom, looking out at the view of another building's brick wall, and grinned. "This is mine? Just mine?" "Just yours. No cousins visiting every weekend?" "Not unless you invite them." He turned to me, suddenly serious. "Do you think they'll forgive us?" "Eventually. Maybe. But you don't care if they do." "I care. But not enough to go back." He nodded slowly. "Okay. Then I don't care either." We ordered pizza and ate sitting on the bare floor, our voices echoing off the walls. Marcus pulled out his laptop and started researching debate topics. I answered work emails and tried not to think about the 17 missed calls on my phone, all from home. Around midnight, I finally listened to the voicemails. Mom, crying, "Please call me back. We need to talk about this. You can't just disappear." Sarah, angry, "This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. Call Mom and apologize." Mom again, "Sarah is very upset. The twins keep asking where Marcus went. What am I supposed to tell them?" Sarah again, "I talked to Mom's cardiologist. Her blood pressure is through the roof. If something happens to her, it's on you." I deleted them all and blocked their numbers. The first month was hard. Not because I doubted the decision, but because undoing 38 years of conditioning turns out to be exhausting. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach clenched. Every Sunday around 5 o'clock, I'd catch myself thinking we should head to Mom's house for dinner. Muscle memory is powerful. Marcus adapted faster. He started summer classes at Riverside, joined the debate team's practice sessions, made friends with kids who talked about Supreme Court decisions and logical fallacies at lunch. He'd come home energized, talking too fast about switch-side debates and cross-examination strategies, and I'd realize I was seeing him clearly for the first time in years. This was who he'd been under all that careful quietness. Someone loud and passionate and brilliant. I got my own life sorted, found a decent therapist, established a workout routine, started cooking actual meals instead of surviving on takeout. Small things, but they felt revolutionary. I could come home to an empty apartment and not feel guilty about it. I could succeed at work without wondering who I was outshining. 6 weeks in, I unblocked Sarah's number. She called within an hour. Finally, she said instead of hello, "Do you have any idea what you've put Mom through? How are the twins?" "Don't change the subject." "I'm not. I'm asking about your kids." Silence. "Then, they're fine. Adjusting to high school. They ask about Marcus sometimes. Tell them he says hi." Are you planning to come home? Ever? This is home now. For how long? Until you get bored of your little rebellion? It's not a rebellion, Sarah. I'm just done. Done with what? Your family? Done with being small. The words came easier now. Done with apologizing for taking up space. Done with teaching my son that his achievements only matter if they don't make anyone else uncomfortable. That's not fair. Nobody ever asked you to. Yes, you did. All of you. Every time you canceled a celebration, every time you told me to wait, every time you suggested I was being insensitive for wanting to acknowledge something good in my life. You asked me to be smaller. Because not everything has to be a competition. Not everything has to be about winning. I never made it a competition. You did. By assuming that me succeeding meant you were failing. I took a breath. I'm tired, Sarah. I don't want to fight. Then come home and fix this. There's nothing to fix. We're just living our lives. She hung up. I didn't call back. Fall arrived with all the ceremony that college towns specialize in. Marcus started school officially, came home with stories about teachers and classes and debate tournaments on the horizon. He joined the cross-country team on a whim and discovered he was fast. He made friends with a girl named Keisha who quoted philosophy and challenged him in ways that made him sharper. I watched him unfold like paper that had been crumpled too long. The Instagram started innocuously. Marcus had never been much for social media, but Keisha convinced him to document the debate season. He posted photos from tournaments, group shots with his team, screenshots of their wins, honor roll announcements, cross-country medals, the everyday moments of a teenager who was allowed to be proud of himself. I didn't think much of it until October, when my phone rang at 2 a.m. Hello? Are you deliberately trying to hurt them? Sarah's voice was ragged. Is that what this is? What are you talking about? The Instagram. All those posts. The twins see them, they know Marcus is at some fancy private school, they see him winning everything, and her voice broke. Do you have any idea what this is doing to them? I sat up, fully awake now. What's doing to them? Watching their cousin succeed while they struggle. They're barely passing their classes, they hate high school, and every time they open Instagram, there's Marcus with another award or another tournament win. So tell them to unfollow him. Silence. Then, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. If seeing Marcus's life is upsetting them, they should unfollow him. That's how social media works. They shouldn't have to. He shouldn't be rubbing their faces in it. He's posting about his life. That's not rubbing anything in anyone's face. It feels that way to them. Don't you care at all? About the twins? Of course. But not enough to tell Marcus to hide his achievements so they don't feel bad about their own lives. I lay back down. That's the whole point, Sarah. We left so he wouldn't have to do that anymore. You left because you're selfish. Maybe. Or maybe I finally learned that putting yourself first isn't the same thing as being selfish. She hung up. This was becoming a pattern. Thanksgiving approached with all the weight of obligation I'd been avoiding. Mom called, her first direct contact since we'd left, and asked if we'd be coming home for the holidays. We're staying here, I said. But it's Thanksgiving. I know. We're having it here. Alone? Marcus has friends now. We'll probably do something with their families. The silence on the other end was thick with hurt. Finally, I don't understand why you're doing this to us. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing something for Marcus, by keeping him away from his family? By letting him exist without constantly making himself smaller to protect someone else's feelings. I switched the phone to my other ear. Mom, when was the last time you asked about Marcus? About how he's doing, what he's learning, who he's becoming? I always ask about Marcus. No, you always ask when I'm coming back. It's not the same thing. Of course I want you to come back. You're my daughter. Is that so wrong? It's not wrong. But it's not enough either. She started crying then, soft hiccuping sobs that might have broken me 6 months ago. Instead, I felt nothing but a distant sadness, like watching someone else's family drama through a window. I have to go, I said gently. We're okay, Mom. We're actually really okay. I hung up before she could respond. We spent Thanksgiving with Keisha's family, her mother, grandmother, and 2 younger brothers in a warm, chaotic house that smelled like turkey and pie and felt nothing like home. They asked Marcus about debate, celebrated when he told them about his latest tournament win, and didn't once suggest he should hide his accomplishments. Driving back that evening, Marcus said, "That was nice." It was. Different from Gron's house. Very different. He was quiet for a moment. "Do you miss them?" "Sometimes. But not enough to go back." "Me neither." December brought the first real snow and, with it, the annual Morrison family Christmas gathering. Mom called to ask one more time if we'd come. I declined. She tried guilt, then anger, then resigned sadness. None of it moved me. "Sarah is devastated," Mom said finally. "The twins ask about you constantly. They can call anytime. They shouldn't have to. You should just come home." "This is home, Mom. I keep telling you that. It's been 6 months. How long are you going to keep this up?" "It's not something I'm keeping up. It's just how things are now." Christmas morning, Marcus and I opened presents in our small apartment, then walked to campus and threw snowballs until our hands went numb. We had hot chocolate at a cafe where everyone seemed to know Marcus's name. His debate coach waved from across the room. Keisha texted to wish him happy holidays. Around 3 o'clock, my phone started exploding. 20 texts from Sarah, each more frantic than the last. Then a call. "What?" I answered. "Did you plan this?" Sarah's voice was hysterical. "Did you deliberately set this up to ruin Christmas?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "The Instagram. The photos." The twins saw them and, she dissolved into tears. I pulled up Marcus's account. He posted a photo from this morning, him holding up a new debate trophy, grinning at the camera, caption reading "Best Christmas ever. So grateful for this new life." Sarah, they saw it during Christmas dinner. All those photos of Marcus smiling and succeeding, and then they looked around at our pathetic little gathering and started crying. Both of them. At the same time. They said they were failures, that Marcus was better than them at everything, that we never should have let him leave. They let themselves compare their lives to someone else's Instagram highlights. That's not Marcus's problem. How can you be so cruel? They're 14 years old. And Marcus is 17. Should he hide his happiness to protect theirs? Yes. She was screaming now. Yes, if that's what it takes. Family is supposed to support each other. I agree. So why didn't you support Marcus? The line went dead. I looked at Marcus, who was watching me with worry creasing his forehead. "Am I being selfish?" he asked quietly. "No, honey. You're being honest." Aunt Sarah seems really upset. Aunt Sarah is upset that you're not hiding your life to make her feel better about her own. That's different. He nodded slowly. Okay. But I could see doubt creeping in, the old familiar guilt starting to take root. We'd escaped physically, but the conditioning went deeper than geography. The second half of Marcus's junior year was a blur of tournaments, honor roll announcements, and college prep meetings. He was thriving in ways that felt almost frightening after years of watching him shrink himself. The debate team made it to nationals. He scored in the 99th percentile on the SAT. Universities started sending recruiting materials. I documented none of it publicly. Neither did Marcus. But apparently, someone was keeping tabs, because in March, Dad called. "Hey, sweetheart." His voice was carefully neutral. "Long time." "Hi, Dad. Your mom showed me some stuff about Marcus. Sounds like he's doing well." "He is." "Nationals, huh? That's impressive." "It is." Silence. Then, "Listen, I'm calling because Sarah is. She's not doing great." "I'm sorry to hear that." The twins dropped out of their extracurriculars. Grades are slipping. She's worried they're depressed. The divorce was hard on them, and then watching Marcus succeed while they struggle. He trailed off. "And you think Marcus succeeding is the problem?" "I think the contrast is making things harder." The contrast would exist whether Marcus posted about it or not. He's thriving. They're struggling. Those are separate facts. But your family. You could be more sensitive. I've been sensitive my entire life, Dad. Where did it get me? He sighed. You used to be more compassionate. No, I used to be more compliant. There's a difference. Sarah says you're rubbing her face in it. Sarah says a lot of things. Most of them aren't true. She's your sister. I know. And I love her. But that doesn't mean I have to make my son smaller so hers can feel bigger. That's not what anyone is asking. That's exactly what you're asking. You just don't want to say it directly. Another silence. Then, your mom misses you. She knows where I live. She wants you to come home. This is home. He hung up without saying goodbye. April brought acceptance letters. Marcus got into 12 schools, including 3 Ivies. He was offered full rides at 2 state universities and substantial scholarships at most of the others. Yale invited him to tour their debate facilities. We celebrated with Keisha's family again. Her mother made a cake. Her grandmother told stories about her own college days. Marcus showed them every acceptance letter, beaming, and nobody suggested he should tone it down. Driving home, he said, "I'm going to post about it." About the acceptances? Yeah. You don't have to. I know. But I want to. Is that okay? I thought about Sarah, about the twins, about Mom's tears and Dad's disappointed silence. Then I thought about Marcus's face when Graham canceled his graduation party, the way he deflated like a punctured balloon. It's your life, I said. Your accomplishments. You get to decide what to share. He posted that night, a photo collage of all 12 acceptance letters arranged on our kitchen table, caption reading incredibly grateful and honestly shocked. Thank you to everyone who believed in me. The comments flooded in, friends, teachers, debate teammates, all celebrating. Not one person suggested he was showing off. Not one person said he should be quieter about his success. My phone didn't ring until the next morning. Are you happy now? Sarah's voice was flat, exhausted. Are you satisfied? What are you talking about? That post. Those acceptances. You've officially won. Congratulations. Won what? The competition. You've proven that Marcus is better than the twins, that you're a better mother than me, that your life is more successful than mine. You've beaten me. So congratulations. Sarah, I was never competing with you. Yes, you were. You always have been. Everything you do is designed to make me look bad. Listen to yourself. You're making my son's college acceptances about you. Because you're using them to hurt me. I'm not using them for anything. They're his achievements. They exist independently of you. Then why post them publicly where you know I'll see them? Because he's proud. Because he worked hard. Because he deserves to celebrate without worrying about who might feel bad about it. So you don't care. About me, about the twins, about any of us. I care. I just don't care enough to make Marcus hide his life. The silence stretched. Then, I need you to know that you've destroyed this family. No, I've removed myself from a dynamic that was destroying me. That's different. Mom is on antidepressants because of you. Mom is on antidepressants because she built her entire identity around managing everyone else's emotions. That was never sustainable. You're a terrible daughter. Maybe. But I'm a good mother. She hung up. May brought graduation season. Marcus finished junior year with straight A's and a handful of awards, department recognition for excellence in debate, a scholarship for academic achievement, team MVP for cross-country. The school held an assembly where they announced senior scholarship recipients, but they also recognized outstanding juniors. Marcus's name was called 4 times. I sat in the audience with Keisha's family and cried. Not sad tears, the other kind. The kind that come from watching your child become exactly who they're supposed to be. Afterward, as we walked to the car, Marcus said, I'm going to post about this too. Okay. Even though it'll upset them. Even though. He looked at me for a long moment. When does it stop feeling bad? Choosing myself over them? I don't know. I'll let you know when I figure it out. He posted the photos that evening, him on stage receiving awards, surrounded by teammates, smiling wider than I'd ever seen. The caption was simple, junior year wrap-up. Grateful doesn't even begin to cover it. This time, my phone rang within minutes. Hello? You need to make him take it down. Sarah's voice was ice. Right now. No. The twins saw it. They're hysterical. Mom had to give them anxiety medication. The twins need therapy, Sarah. Not for Marcus to hide his life. They have a therapist. She says the constant comparison is exacerbating their depression. Then the therapist should help them stop comparing. That's what therapy is for. Or Marcus could stop posting every single accomplishment for the world to see. Why should he? Because it's cruel. Because it's rubbing their faces in their failures. Their struggles are not his problem. I'm sorry the twins are having a hard time. I genuinely am. But Marcus is not responsible for managing their mental health. He's family. Family helps each other. Family also celebrates each other. When was the last time you congratulated Marcus on anything? Silence. That's what I thought, I said quietly. You want him to hide so you feel better, but you won't celebrate him when he succeeds. That's not family. That's hostage negotiation. I can't believe. I know. You've been saying that for a year now. I felt suddenly, deeply tired. Sarah, I love you. I love Mom and Dad and the twins. But I'm done apologizing for my son's success. If you can't handle seeing him happy, block him. Otherwise, learn to be happy for him. Or what? Or nothing. There's no ultimatum. You just keep being miserable while we keep being happy. She hung up. Summer arrived with heat and humidity and the promise of Marcus's senior year. He spent June at a debate-intensive program at Georgetown. July brought college tours. We visited Yale, Princeton, Stanford. August meant preparation, finalizing his college list, writing early action essays, meeting with his guidance counselor about strategy. He was calm about it all in a way that seemed impossible for someone 17. When I asked him if he was nervous, he just shrugged. It'll work out, he said. One way or another. When did you become so zen? When I realized that even if I don't get my top choice, I'll still be okay. I've got options. Real ones. He looked at me. We both do. The week before senior year started, my phone rang at midnight. Mom. Hello? She's in the hospital. Mom's voice was hoarse. Sarah. She had a breakdown. A complete breakdown. They found her in her car, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. She'd been there for 6 hours. My stomach dropped. Is she okay? They're keeping her for observation. Acute anxiety crisis, they said. Possibly depression. Mom's voice broke. This is your fault. You did this to her. I didn't. You abandoned us. You took Marcus away, you posted all those photos, you rubbed her face in your perfect life while hers fell apart. You destroyed her. Mom, that's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? While you were off playing happy family, Sarah was drowning. The twins barely speak to her. She can't afford therapy. She's working 3 jobs just to make rent. And every time she opened her phone, there was Marcus, smiling, succeeding, living the life her boys should have had. That's not Marcus's fault. It's yours. You could have helped. You could have been there. But you chose to be selfish instead. I chose to protect my son. From what? From family who loves him? From family who wanted to make him small. Nobody wanted that. We just wanted consideration. We wanted you to think about other people for once. I spent 38 years thinking about other people. It almost killed me. So you decided to kill Sarah instead? The accusation hung in the air between us, heavy and ugly. Is she going to be okay? I asked quietly. I don't know. The doctors don't know. She won't talk to anyone. She just keeps crying and saying she's a failure. Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. She showed me Marcus's Instagram. All those photos. All that success. And I thought maybe you were right. Maybe we did ask too much. Maybe we should have celebrated him more. Mom. But then I looked at Sarah, at my baby girl falling apart, and I thought, was it worth it? Was Marcus's happiness worth destroying hers? That's not a fair question. Why not? Because you're assuming they're connected. That Marcus succeeding caused Sarah's breakdown. But correlation isn't causation. Don't therapists speak at me. I'm your mother. Then act like it. Ask me how Marcus is doing. Ask me if we're happy. Ask me anything that isn't about Sarah's feelings. How can you be so cold? I'm not cold. I'm just done being warm at my own expense. She hung up. I sat in the dark for a long time, phone in hand, wondering if she was right. If maybe I had broken something that couldn't be fixed. Marcus appeared in the doorway, backlit by the hallway light. I heard the phone. Aunt Sarah is in the hospital. His face went pale. Is she okay? She had a panic attack. A bad one. Because of me? No. Because of a lot of things that have nothing to do with you. Gran thinks it's my fault. Gran is wrong. He sat down beside me on the couch. We stayed there in silence for a while. Finally, he said, should I delete my Instagram? Do you want to? No. But if it would help. It wouldn't. The problem isn't your Instagram. The problem is that Aunt Sarah is measuring her life against yours, and that's not something you can fix by making yourself invisible. Are you sure? I'm sure. He leaned against me, Suddenly very young. I feel bad, though. I know. That's because you're a good person. But feeling bad doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. How do you tell the difference? That's the question I've been asking myself for a year. Senior year started with all the chaos of college applications and first semester grades. Marcus threw himself into debate with intensity that bordered on obsession. He won 3 tournaments in September, 2 more in October. His essays were sharp, his interviews confident. Watching him navigate the stress without crumbling felt like proof that we'd made the right choice. But Sarah's breakdown haunted me. I called the hospital to check on her. They wouldn't tell me anything, patient confidentiality. I called Mom, who said Sarah was home but not speaking to anyone. I called Dad, who suggested maybe I should visit. And say what? That you're sorry. That you care. That family matters more than pride. I'm not apologizing for protecting my son. Then I guess you've made your choice. He hung up. November brought early action decisions. Marcus got into Yale, his top choice, with a generous financial aid package. He also got into Princeton and Georgetown. He was over the moon, calling friends, texting Keisha, planning visits. I watched him celebrate without reservation, without checking to see who might feel bad, without making himself smaller, and felt vindicated. Then vindicated and guilty. Then just tired. I posted nothing publicly. Marcus did, though, a photo of the Yale acceptance letter, caption reading Dream School Achieved. Can't believe this is real. The responses were immediate and overwhelming, classmates, teachers, debate teammates, all celebrating. 300 likes. 70 comments. All positive. My phone rang at dawn the next morning. Hello? Are you happy now? It was Dad, voice tight with fury. Are you satisfied? What are you talking about? Sarah tried to hurt herself last night. The world tilted. What? She saw Marcus's post. Saw all those congratulations. Saw everyone celebrating his success. And she went into the bathroom and, his voice broke. Mom found her in time. She's alive. But she tried. Do you understand? Your sister tried to die because of you. That's not, I didn't. You did. You and your selfishness and your refusal to consider anyone else. You destroyed her. You broke our family. And if she tries again, if she succeeds next time, it'll be on you. Dad, don't call. Don't visit. Don't contact any of us. You've done enough damage. The line went dead. I sat there, phone in my hand, trying to process what he'd said. Sarah had tried to hurt herself. Because of Marcus's Yale acceptance. Because I'd refused to make him hide his success. Because I'd chosen him over her. The guilt was suffocating. Marcus found me an hour later, still sitting in the same spot. Mom? I looked up at him, tall, confident, glowing with happiness, and thought, did I do this? Did I break Sarah to save him? Aunt Sarah's in the hospital again, I said. His face fell. Another panic attack? Something worse. I couldn't say it. She's okay. But it was close. Because of Yale? According to them, yes. He sat down heavily. What should I do? Nothing. You did nothing wrong. But if my post triggered? No. Listen to me. I took his hands. What Sarah did is not your fault. Her mental health is not your responsibility. Her happiness is not contingent on your failure. But they think, they're wrong. They've always been wrong. And if I thought otherwise, we never would have left in the first place. He searched my face. Are you sure? I wasn't. Not anymore. But I said, I'm sure. December was a blur of finals and college planning and trying not to think about Sarah in whatever hospital they'd put her in. I called Mom once. She hung up. I texted Sarah directly. No response. Dad sent one message, stay away. Christmas came again, quieter this time. Marcus and I decorated a small tree, baked cookies, watched movies. He got accepted to Stanford during Christmas Eve dinner. We celebrated with Keisha's family, who were becoming more like family than my actual family. Marcus posted about Stanford with visible hesitation. Is this okay? He asked before hitting share. It's your life. But what if? There's always going to be a what if. You can't live your life around someone else's potential reaction. He posted it. More congratulations flooded in. My phone stayed silent. Spring of senior year brought decision time. Marcus chose Yale after agonizing over Stanford for weeks. The scholarship package was better, the debate program was stronger, and something about New Haven felt right to him. Graduation approached with all the ceremony we'd missed last year. This time, there would be no cancellations. No postponements. No consideration of who might feel bad. Marcus sent his grandparents an invitation. Neither responded. He sent his aunt an invitation. She sent it back torn in half. They really hate us, don't they? He said, looking at the pieces. They're hurt. That's different. Is it? I think so. I hope so. Graduation day was beautiful, clear sky, warm breeze, hundreds of students in blue robes. Marcus gave a speech as debate team captain about finding your voice and not being afraid to use it. I cried through the entire thing. Afterward, at the reception, a woman approached me. Mid-40s, expensive suit, confident handshake. You must be Marcus's mother. I'm Jennifer Hayes, Yale's debate coach. I wanted to introduce myself before fall. It's nice to meet you. Marcus is exceptionally talented. In 20 years of coaching, I've rarely seen someone with his combination of analytical skill and emotional intelligence. She smiled. I also understand he overcame significant obstacles to be here. That kind of resilience will serve him well. Obstacles? He mentioned in his essay that he transferred schools to pursue better opportunities, even though it meant leaving family behind. That takes courage. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I wanted you to know that we'll take good care of him at Yale. Students like Marcus, who fight for their own success despite external pressure, they're the ones who change the world. After she left, I found Marcus surrounded by friends, laughing, taking photos. He saw me and waved me over, pulled me into the group, introduced me to people I'd never met who clearly adored him. This was the life we built. Messy and complicated and built on the rubble of other relationships, but real. Genuine. His. I thought about Sarah, about Mom, about Dad's angry words on the phone. I thought about all the things I'd broken to build this. And I still couldn't regret it. Summer passed in a blur of preparation. We moved Marcus into his Yale dorm in late August. His roommate was from California, planning to major in political science. They bonded immediately over Supreme Court cases. I drove home alone, the car too quiet, the apartment too empty. For the first time in months, I let myself really think about what I'd lost. My mother, who hadn't spoken to me in over a year. My sister, who blamed me for her breakdown. My father, who told me to stay away. My nephews, who I barely knew anymore. I traded all of them for Marcus's happiness. For his success. For his right to exist without making himself small. Some people would call that selfish. I called it survival. September brought a text from an unknown number. This is Sarah. I'm out of the hospital. Been in treatment for 6 months. I'm better now. Or better-ish. My therapist suggested I reach out. I stared at it for 10 minutes before responding. I'm glad you're getting help. She says I wasn't sick because of you. Says I was already sick and using your success as a scapegoat. Says I need to take responsibility for my own mental health. She sounds like a good therapist. She is. Doesn't mean I like what she says. The best therapy usually doesn't. A long pause. Then, I saw Marcus got into Yale. That's huge. It is. I should have said congratulations. Before. When it happened. Thank you. I'm not ready to see you. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. But I wanted you to know I don't blame you anymore. I blame Mom for teaching me that your success diminished me. I blame myself for believing it. I'm working on that. I'm proud of you. For what? For doing the work. For getting help. For taking responsibility. Yeah, well. Hitting rock bottom has a way of clarifying priorities. How are the twins? Okay. Better since I stopped projecting my issues onto them. Turns out they never cared that much about Marcus's achievements. I was the one obsessed with comparison. Kids are resilient. So are you, apparently. I resented that for a long time. How you just left and built a whole new life. But my therapist says that's not resilience. That's survival. Maybe it's both. Maybe. She didn't respond after that. But she didn't block me either. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was something. A door left slightly ajar instead of slammed shut. I'd take it. October brought Parents' Weekend at Yale. I drove up Friday afternoon, met Marcus for dinner, toured campus. He showed me the debate hall where he'd won his first tournament, introduced me to professors and teammates and the girl he was seeing, quiet, brilliant, studying neuroscience. Sunday morning, before I left, we sat in his dorm room drinking coffee. "Are you happy?" I asked. "Incredibly." "No regrets?" "About Yale?" "None." "About everything else?" "The family situation?" He was quiet for a moment. "I miss them sometimes. Gron's cooking? Papa's jokes. Even the twins, though they probably hate me now. They don't hate you." "They might. If they do, that's their problem to solve, not yours to fix." He nodded slowly. "I know. But it still sucks." "It does. Do you regret it? Leaving?" I thought about that morning in Mom's kitchen, watching her cancel the graduation party. Marcus's face falling. The decision crystallizing in an instant. "No," I said. "I don't regret protecting you. Even though it cost you everything else?" "It didn't cost me everything. It cost me people who wanted me small. There's a difference." He smiled. "You sound like my therapist." "You're in therapy?" "Yeah. Started last month. Yale requires it for scholarship students, but it's actually pretty helpful." "What do you talk about?" "Guilt, mostly. About being happy when other people aren't. About succeeding when others struggle." He looked at me. "She says I learned that from you." "The guilt?" "Probably. But also the courage to choose myself anyway. She says that's healthy boundary setting, not selfishness." "Smart therapist." "I think so." He set down his coffee. "I'm going to try to reconnect with them. Gran, Papa, Aunt Sarah. Not now, but eventually. When I'm ready." "That's good. But I'm not going to apologize for my life. For succeeding. For being happy. I wouldn't want you to. Even if they ask me to? Especially then." He hugged me goodbye at my car. I drove home with the radio off, thinking about everything we'd lost and everything we'd gained. The scales still didn't balance. Maybe they never would. But Marcus was happy. Thriving. Unfolding into the person he was supposed to be. And I'd learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to make yourself small. Even if it breaks everything else in the process. Especially then.
Story 4.
My mom uninvited my 7-year-old daughter from Christmas because my brother's kids were going through a hard time and seeing her open gifts would upset them. She actually said, "Can't you just explain it to her? She'll understand." My daughter cried for an hour. I didn't argue with my mom. We just packed our bags and spent Christmas at Disneyland instead. A week later, my nephew saw pictures of our trip and my daughter's beautiful new bedroom in our bigger house on Instagram. My brother and his wife accused me of deliberately flaunting our success to hurt their children. Now they're demanding I pay for their kids' Disneyland trips too and buy them a new house, or I'm destroying the family. I laughed and blocked every single one of them. My daughter's name is Harper. She turned 7 3 weeks before Christmas, and the thing she'd been most excited about, more than the birthday cake shaped like a unicorn, more than her new bike with streamers on the handlebars, was spending the holidays at Grandma's house with her cousins. I should have seen it coming. Looking back, the signs were there. My brother Ryan's tone during our monthly family dinners had shifted from strained politeness to something sharper, more brittle. His wife Melissa stopped asking me about work altogether. They'd arrive late, leave early, and spend most of the evening herding their 2 boys, Ethan, 9, and Connor, 6, away from Harper like she carried something contagious. But I didn't see it. Or maybe I just didn't want to. The call came on December 18th. I was in the kitchen making hot chocolate, the kind with real melted chocolate chips and a dash of cinnamon, when my phone buzzed against the counter. Mom's name lit up the screen. "Hey," I said, wedging the phone between my shoulder and ear while I stirred. "I was just about to text you. Harper wants to know if she can help you bake cookies this year. She's been practicing her icing technique." There was a pause. Too long. The kind of silence that makes your stomach clench before your brain catches up. "Actually, sweetie, that's why I'm calling." Mom's voice had that careful quality people use when they're about to say something terrible but want to pretend it's reasonable. "I need to talk to you about Christmas." I stopped stirring. "Ryan and Melissa have been going through such a difficult time," she continued. "The boys are really struggling with the move and everything that's happened with Ryan's job situation. Melissa thinks it would be better if Harper didn't come this year." The wooden spoon in my hand dripped chocolate onto the counter. I watched the drop spread, dark and thick. I'm sorry, what? The boys are just in such a fragile place right now. Seeing Harper open presents when they're not getting as much this year, it's going to be too hard for them. Can't you just explain it to her? She'll understand. My 7-year-old daughter. The one who'd been counting down the days on her homemade advent calendar, adding glitter to each number. The one who'd already wrapped presents for her cousins in newspaper because she'd used up all her allowance buying them gifts. That daughter was supposed to understand why she couldn't celebrate Christmas with her family. You're uninviting your granddaughter from Christmas. My voice came out flat, emotionless. I barely recognized it. Oh, don't be so dramatic. It's just 1 year. You two can come for dinner the next day, or maybe New Year's. This is about being sensitive to what the boys are experiencing. I thought about all the times I'd been sensitive. Every family gathering where I downplayed my promotion because Ryan had just been passed over for his. The way I'd stopped mentioning my work at all after he'd been laid off 6 months ago. How I'd practically apologized for buying our new house, even though my husband Mark and I had saved for 5 years and sacrificed weekends and vacations to make it happen. No, I said. Excuse me? I said no. We won't be coming the next day or for New Year's. We won't be coming at all. You're being incredibly selfish. Your brother needs support right now, not judgment from his successful little sister who. I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Harper appeared in the doorway, her favorite purple sweater dusted with glitter from whatever craft project she'd been working on upstairs. Is the hot chocolate ready? I looked at my daughter, at her gap-toothed smile and the hopeful light in her eyes, and made a decision. Almost. But first, how would you feel about changing our Christmas plans? Her face fell. We're not going to Grandma's? No, sweetheart. We're not. I crouched down to her level. But I have a different idea. What if we went somewhere really special instead? Just you, me, and Dad. Like where? I pulled up a website on my phone, turning the screen to show her. Her gasp was so loud it startled our cat off the windowsill. Disneyland? For real? For real. We leave in 2 days. She threw her arms around my neck so hard we both nearly toppled over. Over her shoulder, I could see our reflection in the darkened window, mother and daughter, holding each other tight. I felt something hard and cold in my chest start to crack. When Mark got home from work, I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with each sentence. I'm going to call your mother, he finally said. No. I put my hand over his. I don't want to fight. I don't want to convince anyone that our daughter deserves to be treated like she matters. I'm just done. He studied my face for a long moment. Disneyland, huh? Every penny from the emergency fund. The whole week. The nicest hotel I could find. Good. He pulled out his laptop. Let me see if I can upgrade us to the park hopper passes. We didn't tell anyone where we were going. I silenced notifications from my family group chat and ignored 3 more calls from my mother. Ryan texted once, Mom says you're having a tantrum. Very mature. I deleted it without responding. The morning we left for the airport, Harper was so excited she put her shoes on the wrong feet. She bounced in her car seat the entire drive, practicing her autograph technique for when she met the princesses. Mark and I kept catching each other's eyes in the rearview mirror, smiling despite everything. Disneyland in late December is a different kind of magic. The park glows with thousands of lights, every surface dusted with artificial snow that somehow feels real in the California air. We stayed until closing every night, rode every ride Harper was tall enough for, and ate things that probably violated several nutritional guidelines. On Christmas morning, we opened presents in our hotel room. I packed them in suitcases, wrapped in secret while Harper slept. She got the deluxe art set she'd been eyeing for months, a stack of books about women scientists, and a Minnie Mouse ears headband with her name embroidered on the back. This is the best Christmas ever, she announced, paint splattered and exhausted and grinning so wide her cheeks had to hurt. I believed her. We got back home 3 days after Christmas. The house felt different, bigger, brighter. Maybe because I was seeing it through Harper's eyes as she ran from room to room, showing her stuffed animals all the pictures on my phone. Or maybe because for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of other people's disappointment. Mark had spent months designing Harper's new bedroom as a surprise. It was twice the size of her old one, with built-in bookshelves he'd constructed himself, a window seat overlooking the backyard, and a reading nook complete with fairy lights. We'd planned to reveal it after Christmas, but with our schedule change, we did it the day after we returned. Harper cried. Happy tears, The kind that make your chest ache in the best way. She kept touching the walls like she couldn't believe they were real. My own library, she whispered, running her fingers along the empty shelves. Can we go to the bookstore tomorrow? I took photos. Not because I planned to post them, I'd been off social media for months, but because I wanted to remember the look on her face. Pure joy, uncomplicated by anyone else's pain or jealousy. Later that night, after Harper was asleep, I was scrolling through the pictures when Mark sat down next to me. You should post some of those, he said. I looked at him. That feels like asking for trouble. Maybe. He shrugged. Or maybe it's just sharing your life like everyone else gets to do. Why should you hide the good things? I thought about that for a while. About how I'd spent years making myself smaller, dimmer, less. Apologizing for working hard and succeeding. Feeling guilty for being able to provide for my daughter. I opened Instagram for the first time in 3 months. The photos told their own story. Harper in Minnie Mouse ears, cotton candy bigger than her head. The two of us on Space Mountain, mid-scream. Mark and Harper building a snowman in our backyard, real snow this time from the freak storm that had hit the day we got back. Harper's new room, lit by afternoon sun, books already filling the shelves. I didn't caption them with anything pointed. Just, making memories. Feeling grateful. The responses started immediately. Friends from work, college roommates I barely kept in touch with, my neighbor 3 houses down. Everyone commenting on how happy Harper looked, how beautiful our home was, how magical the trip seemed. I closed the app and went to bed. The next morning, my phone was on fire. 15 missed calls from my mother. 23 from Ryan. Voicemails that I deleted without listening to. Texts that came in so fast my phone vibrated continuously for 3 minutes straight. Finally, I opened the family group chat. Ryan, are you serious right now? Mom, this is incredibly hurtful. Melissa, do you have any idea how upset the boys are? Ryan, you're deliberately flaunting your money to hurt children. Children. Mom, take those posts down immediately. Melissa, Ethan saw the photos at his friend's house. He's been crying for an hour. Ryan, we need to talk. Now. I stared at the messages, reading them twice to make sure I understood correctly. Then I started typing. Harper was crying too. For an hour. Because her grandmother told her she couldn't come to Christmas. Remember that? The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Then Ryan called. I answered. What? You did this on purpose. His voice was tight with fury. You took her to Disneyland and bought all that stuff and posted it everywhere because you wanted to hurt us. I took my daughter on vacation because she was devastated about being excluded from family Christmas. She's 7. She would have gotten over it. But no, you had to throw your money in everyone's faces and make my kids feel like garbage. Something hot flared in my chest. Your kids feeling bad is not my responsibility. You're their father. You want them to feel better? Be a better parent. How dare you? No. How dare you and Mom think it's okay to punish Harper for your problems? How dare you act like my daughter's happiness is an attack on your family? Melissa's voice came through in the background. Tell her the boys need this. They need to go to Disneyland too. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound came out harsh and sharp. Let me talk to her. Melissa wrestled the phone away. Listen, I know you're upset, but you have to understand what it's like for Ethan and Connor. They see their cousin getting everything while they're struggling. You need to make this right. Make what right? Take them to Disneyland. Pay for a trip for us. It's the least you can do after rubbing your wealth in their faces. The audacity of it left me momentarily speechless. You want me to pay for your family vacation? Yes. And honestly, you should help with our housing situation too. You bought that huge house while Ryan can barely make rent. If you cared about family at all, you'd want to help. Help. I repeated the word slowly. You excluded my daughter from Christmas, and now you want me to buy you a house? We're family. That's what family does. No, I said. That's what doormats do. I'm done being one. Ryan grabbed the phone back. You're destroying this family. Mom is devastated. The boys are traumatized. All because you're too selfish to share what you have. I have shared. For years. I've made myself invisible so you could feel better about yourself. I've apologized for every good thing that happened to me. I've taught my daughter to hide her light so your kids wouldn't feel dim. And it's never enough. It's never going to be enough. So what, you're just going to abandon your family? No. You're going to stop treating my daughter like an inconvenience. She's a child. She deserves to be celebrated, not hidden away because her cousins might feel jealous. This is your final word? Yes. Fine. Don't come crawling back when you realize what you've lost. I won't. I hung up and immediately blocked his number. Then Melissa's. Then my mother's. The group chat exploded with messages, but I left it without reading them. Mark found me sitting on the kitchen floor, phone clutched in my hand, shaking. What happened? He sat down beside me. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt, just put his arm around my shoulders and let me talk. They want us to pay for their Disneyland trip, I finished. And help them buy a house. Because we're family, and that's what family does. That's not what family does, Mark said quietly. Family doesn't ask you to make your kid feel small. Family doesn't demand you fund their lifestyle while treating your daughter like she's less than. Mom's going to be furious. She'll probably never forgive me. Then she doesn't get to be in Harper's life. Simple as that. It wasn't simple. Nothing about cutting off your family is simple. But it was necessary. Over the next week, I blocked every relative who sent me a message demanding I apologize or fix things. I changed my Instagram to private and only approved people who actually cared about us. I stopped checking my email obsessively, stopped jumping every time my phone buzzed. Harper noticed the change in me before I did. You seem happier, Mom, she said one morning over breakfast. I am, I realized. I really am. Is it because we don't have to go to Grandma's anymore? The question caught me off guard. Did you not like going there? She shrugged, pushing her cereal around the bowl. Ethan and Connor never wanted to play with me. And Aunt Melissa always looked at me weird. Like I did something wrong. My heart cracked. Baby, you never did anything wrong. I know. That's why I didn't say anything. I didn't want to make you sad. She looked up at me with eyes too old for her face. But I like it better when it's just us. Can we do more stuff together? Just our family? I pulled her onto my lap, bowl of cereal and all. Yes. All the time. Whatever you want. Can we go to the Science Museum next weekend? Absolutely. And can we get ice cream after? The biggest sundae they have. She hugged me tight. Over her shoulder, through the kitchen window, I could see our backyard, the swing set we'd installed last spring, the garden beds waiting for planting season, the treehouse Mark had promised to build when the weather warmed up. This was our life. Our home. Our family. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty about any of it. 3 weeks later, I got a Facebook message from my cousin Jessica. We hadn't talked in years, but we'd been close as kids. I heard about what happened with Ryan and your mom. I just wanted you to know, you did the right thing. I watched them treat you like garbage for years and never said anything. I'm sorry for that. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Thanks. That means a lot. Your daughter is lucky to have you. Not everyone would choose their kid over keeping the peace. That sentence lodged itself in my chest. Because that's what it was, really. A choice between Harper's well-being and everyone else's comfort. Put that way, it was the easiest decision I'd ever made. February brought Harper's school's mother-daughter dance. She wore a blue dress with sparkles, her hair in elaborate braids courtesy of Mark's surprisingly nimble fingers. We danced to overplayed pop songs and ate way too many cookies and took a million pictures in the photo booth. On the drive home, she fell asleep in the backseat, still wearing her dress, glitter smeared on her cheeks. I adjusted the rearview mirror to watch her breathe, this little person who trusted me to protect her, to put her first, to make sure she knew she mattered. Worth it? Mark asked quietly. Every second. April meant Harper's spring soccer season. I'd signed her up after she mentioned wanting to try it, and she'd thrown herself into the sport with characteristic enthusiasm. She wasn't particularly good, coordination wasn't her strong suit, but she loved being part of a team. I stood on the sidelines with the other parents, cheering when her team scored, groaning when they missed. Normal things. Simple things. Things I'd taken for granted before last Christmas. Harper's mom? A woman approached me hesitantly. I recognized her from drop-off, another second-grade parent. I hope this isn't weird, but I wanted to say how wonderful your daughter is. She helped my son with his reading last week when he was struggling. Didn't make him feel bad about it at all. Pride swelled in my chest. That sounds like her. You're raising a really kind kid. After she walked away, I had to blink back tears. Because Harper was kind. Despite everything, despite being excluded and hurt, she was generous and thoughtful and good. I hadn't ruined that by standing up for her. If anything, maybe I'd shown her that kindness didn't mean accepting mistreatment. In May, Mark got a promotion. We celebrated with takeout and a cake from the grocery store, nothing fancy. Harper made him a card covered in drawings of computers and code and stick figures labeled World's Best Dad. "Are you going to post about this?" Mark asked later, half joking. I thought about it. About the photos still sitting on my phone, waiting to be shared. About the life we were building, loud and bright and unapologetic. "Yeah," I said. "I am." I posted a picture of the three of us, cake smeared and grinning. The caption read, "Celebrating wins, big and small. Grateful for this little family of ours." Within an hour, my inbox pinged. A message from a number I didn't recognize. "This is your mother. I'm very disappointed in how you've handled this situation. Family is supposed to forgive. You're teaching Harper terrible values." I read it twice, then deleted it. Blocked the number. Went back to the kitchen where Harper was trying to teach Mark a complicated clapping game she'd learned at recess. The message lingered in my mind for maybe 10 minutes. Then Harper called me over to join their game, and I forgot all about it. June brought the end of the school year. Harper's teacher pulled me aside during pickup, asking if we could talk for a moment. My stomach clenched. Had something happened? Was Harper struggling? "I wanted to let you know," Mrs. Patterson said, "that Harper has really blossomed this year. She's more confident, more willing to take risks in her learning. Whatever you're doing at home, keep doing it." The knot in my chest loosened. "Thank you. She loves your class." She told me about Christmas, Mrs. Patterson added carefully. About going to Disneyland. I tensed, waiting for judgment. "She said it was the best Christmas ever because you chose her." Those were her exact words. Mrs. Patterson smiled. "Not every parent would make that choice. You should be proud." I was crying before I reached the car. Happy tears, the kind that come when someone sees you trying your hardest and tells you it's working. Harper's 8th birthday party in September was everything she wanted. We rented out a pottery painting studio, invited her entire class, and let them create absolute chaos with paint and glitter and frosting. At the end, covered in clay dust and surrounded by her laughing friends, Harper hugged me tight. "Thanks for the best party ever, Mom." "You're welcome, sweetheart. And thanks for Disneyland. And my room. And everything. You don't have to thank me for loving you." "I know." She pulled back, serious now. "But I want to. Because you're the best mom and I'm really glad you're mine. If you told me a year ago that cutting off most of my family would lead to this peace, this joy, this certainty, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we were. October meant Halloween. Harper went as a scientist, her choice, complete with goggles and a lab coat and a clipboard for taking notes on candy distribution patterns. We trick-or-treated with neighbors, carved pumpkins on our front porch, and stayed up too late watching movies that weren't quite age-appropriate but weren't damaging either. November arrived with its inevitable reminders of what I'd lost. My phone stayed blessedly quiet, no invitations, no guilt trips, no last-minute attempts at reconciliation. Just silence. It should have hurt more. Maybe I was broken somehow, too damaged to mourn properly. Or maybe I was just tired of mourning relationships that had never actually nourished me. "What are we doing for Thanksgiving?" Harper asked one evening. "What would you like to do?" She considered this seriously. "Can we invite people who don't have families? Like how we did at Disneyland, just us?" I hadn't thought of it that way, that our trip had created a new tradition, a new definition of family. That's a wonderful idea. We ended up hosting 6 people. Mark's colleague whose family lived overseas. Our neighbor, a widow who'd lost her husband the previous spring. 2 of Harper's teachers. A couple from our street who'd just moved to town. It was loud and chaotic and perfect. We played board games and told terrible jokes and ate until we couldn't move. Harper held court at the kids' table, which consisted of her and the neighbor's teenage grandson, explaining the entire plot of her favorite book series. As I watched everyone laugh and talk and reach for seconds, I realized this was what I'd been searching for all along. Not tolerance or obligation, but genuine affection. People who showed up because they wanted to, not because they felt they had to. December came faster than expected. Harper didn't ask about going to Grandma's. She asked about going back to Disneyland. "Can we make it our tradition?" She wanted to know. "Every Christmas, just us?" Mark and I exchanged glances. It would be expensive? Complicated. Not the kind of holiday Norman Rockwell painted. Yes, I said. Absolutely yes. Her whoop of joy was answer enough. On December 18th, exactly 1 year after the phone call that changed everything, I was in the kitchen again. Making hot chocolate again. Harper was upstairs packing for our trip, her suitcase already covered in stickers and tags from last year's adventure. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? It's your mother. I should have hung up. But something made me wait. I wanted to let you know that Ryan and Melissa are separating. The boys are devastated. I thought you should know, in case you wanted to reach out. Why would I do that? Because they're your family. Because despite everything, they need support right now. I looked out the window at Harper building a snowman in the backyard, her laughter carrying through the glass. She was wearing the jacket we bought on our trip last year, still her favorite even though it was getting too small. I have a family, I said. And they're doing just fine. So that's it? You're just going to abandon your brother when he's at his lowest? He abandoned my daughter when she needed him to show up. I'm just returning the favor. You've become so cold. I don't even recognize you anymore. Good. The word came out sharp, final. The person you knew let people hurt her kid to keep the peace. I like who I am now better. I hung up. Blocked the number? Went outside to help Harper with her snowman. Who was that? She asked, adding stick arms to our creation. Nobody important. Cool. Can we give him a carrot nose? I think there's one in the fridge. We spent the next hour in the snow, building and laughing and freezing our fingers off. When we finally went inside, I made hot chocolate, the real kind, with melted chocolate and cinnamon, and we drank it while warming up by the fire. Mom? Harper was quiet for a moment. I'm really glad we're going to Disneyland again. Me too, baby. Not just because it's fun, but because. She struggled for words. Because it feels like us. Like our family. Does that make sense? It made perfect sense. 2 days later, we were back at the airport. Harper still put her shoes on the wrong feet in her excitement. We still got park hopper passes. We still stayed until closing and ate things we probably shouldn't. On Christmas morning in our hotel room, Harper opened her presents with the same joy as last year. This time she got an advanced microscope, books about space exploration, and a new set of mini ears with her name embroidered in silver thread. Best Christmas ever, she announced, exactly like she had 12 months before. But this time, I didn't need to believe her. I knew it was true. We took photos. Lots of them. I posted a few on Instagram with the caption, Year 2 of our new tradition. Some families are born, some are built, and some are chosen every single day. The comments rolled in from people who actually mattered. Friends, neighbors, colleagues. People who celebrated our happiness instead of resenting it. No messages from my mother. No angry calls from Ryan. No demands or guilt trips or accusations. Just peace. On our last night, we watched the fireworks over Sleeping Beauty's castle. Harper sat on Mark's shoulders, pointing out her favorite colors while I leaned against his side. The crowd pressed in around us, but we were our own little island. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? Mark asked. For backing me up. For never making me feel crazy for choosing this. You weren't choosing anything except to protect our daughter. That's not a choice. That's just being a parent. Maybe he was right. Maybe the choice had been made years ago when I first held Harper and promised to keep her safe. Everything after that was just follow-through. We flew home the next morning, exhausted and happy and already planning next year's trip. Harper fell asleep on the plane, her head on my shoulder, Mickey ears still perched on her head despite being slightly crooked. I thought about the version of myself from last year. The one who'd been so afraid of conflict, so desperate to maintain peace at any cost. The one who'd apologized for success and hidden joy and taught her daughter to make herself smaller. I didn't miss her. The woman I was now, the one who stood up, spoke back and walked away, she was better. Stronger. More honest. And Harper, growing up watching me set boundaries and prioritize her well-being, would be even better still. That evening, back in our house, I was unpacking when I found a drawing Harper had made on the plane. It showed the three of us in front of the castle, holding hands, huge smiles on our stick figure faces. At the top, in her careful second-grade handwriting, my family. The best one. I put it on the refrigerator, right in the center where everyone could see it. Because she was right. We were the best family. Not despite what we'd lost, but because of what we'd chosen to keep. The weeks after our second Disneyland Christmas felt different from the year before. Last time, I'd been braced for impact, waiting for the other shoe to drop. This time, I was just living. Harper returned to school in January with stories about the trip, showing her friends pictures and souvenirs. I half expected a call from my mother or Ryan, some new complaint about how we were living our lives. Nothing came. Instead, something unexpected happened. Jessica reached out again in early February, this time asking if we could meet for coffee. I hesitated. She was still connected to my mother, still part of that world I'd left behind. "Just hear me out," she wrote. "I promise I'm not here to guilt you about anything. I actually need your advice." We met at a place halfway between our houses, a little shop that made excellent lattes and played music just loud enough to give conversations privacy. Jessica looked different than I remembered, thinner, more tired, older than her 32 years. "Thanks for coming," she said, fidgeting with her cup. "I wasn't sure you would." "What's going on?" She took a breath. "I'm thinking about cutting off my parents. And I wanted to talk to someone who actually did it." The confession hung between us. I set down my coffee carefully. "What happened?" The story came out in fragments. Jessica's husband had lost his job 2 years ago. They'd been struggling, barely making ends meet, but slowly climbing out. Her parents had offered to help, with conditions. Control over their finances. Criticism of every purchase. Demands that they move closer, change churches, discipline their kids differently. "I finally told them no last month," Jessica said. "Said we'd figure it out ourselves. And my mom lost it. Told me I was ungrateful, that I was ruining my children's lives, that she'd done so much for me, this was how I repaid her." The words were so familiar they could have come from my own memories. "So I'm here," Jessica continued, "looking at you living this whole life without them, and I need to know, is it worth it? Does it get easier?" I thought about how to answer honestly. It gets different. Some days are harder than others. Holidays still feel strange sometimes. But Harper is happier. I'm happier. And I don't spend every day walking on eggshells or apologizing for existing. "Do you regret it?" "Not even once." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so tired of feeling like I'm not enough. Like nothing I do will ever be good enough." "Then stop trying to be enough for them." I reached across the table, taking her hand. "Be enough for yourself and your kids. That's all that matters." She left with red eyes but a straighter spine. I didn't know if she'd go through with it, but at least she knew it was possible. That there was life on the other side of that decision. March brought parent-teacher conferences. Mrs. Patterson had moved up to 3rd grade with Harper's class, something that had delighted my daughter beyond measure. We sat in tiny chairs designed for 8-year-olds while she pulled out Harper's portfolio. "She's excelling in every subject," Mrs. Patterson said, showing us math tests with perfect scores and creative writing assignments that made my chest tight with pride. But what I really wanted to talk about was her social development. I tensed. Here it came, the revelation that cutting off my family had damaged Harper somehow, made her mistrustful or anxious or broken. "She's become a leader in the classroom," Mrs. Patterson continued. "When other kids are struggling, she's the first one to offer help. But she also stands up for herself in ways a lot of children her age don't." Last week, another student tried to take credit for her science project. Harper calmly but firmly corrected him in front of the whole class. Mark and I exchanged glances. "I've taught for 15 years, Mrs. Patterson said, and I can always tell which kids have parents who advocate for them, who show them it's okay to set boundaries. Harper has that. Whatever you're doing, it's working." Walking to the car afterward, Mark put his arm around my shoulders. "You heard that, right? We're not screwing her up." Apparently not. In fact, we might actually be doing something right. "Don't get cocky," I said, but I was smiling. April was when things got complicated again. I was at the grocery store, debating between pasta shapes, when someone called my name. I turned to find Melissa standing 3 feet away, her cart blocking the aisle. We stared at each other. She looked worse than Jessica had, not just tired but hollowed out, like something essential had been scooped away. Her cart held mostly frozen dinners and snacks. No fresh produce, no ingredients for real meals. "Hi," I said finally. "Hi." She gripped the cart handle. "I wasn't sure you'd talk to me. I'm not sure I will. Depends on what you want." "I need to apologize." The words came out rushed, like she'd been practicing. For everything. For going along with your mom's plan, for demanding you pay for our vacation, for all of it. I was wrong. I waited. There had to be more. Ryan and I are getting divorced, she continued. It's been bad. Really bad. And I've been looking back at everything that happened, and I realize how much we blamed you for our problems instead of fixing them ourselves. Okay. Is that all you're going to say? What do you want me to say, Melissa? That it's fine? That I forgive you? You excluded my daughter from Christmas because you were jealous that I had my life together. You demanded I fund your lifestyle. You tried to make me responsible for your kid's happiness while treating mine like she didn't matter. She flinched. I know. You're right. I was terrible. So what now? You apologize and we all go back to being a big happy family? No. She shook her head. I know that's not possible. I wanted you to know that I see it now. How toxic we were. How much we took from you while giving nothing back. I studied her face, looking for manipulation or hidden agenda. All I saw was exhaustion and regret. I appreciate the apology, I said carefully. But I can't go back to how things were. That version of our family almost broke me. I understand. She started to push her cart past me, then stopped. For what it's worth, Harper looks really happy in your pictures. You're doing a good job. She was gone before I could respond. I stood in the pasta aisle for 5 full minutes, trying to process what had just happened. An apology. A genuine one, without excuses or demands for reconciliation. I hadn't expected that. I didn't unblock her number. Didn't reach out to suggest coffee or play dates. But something small and hard in my chest loosened just slightly. May brought Mother's Day, my first without any contact with my own mother. Harper made me breakfast in bed, toast that was slightly burnt and eggs that were definitely overcooked, but served with such pride I ate every bite. This is delicious, I lied. You're a terrible liar, she said cheerfully. But I love you anyway. We spent the day at the botanical gardens, taking pictures of flowers and chasing butterflies and eating ice cream that melted faster than we could lick it. Simple. Perfect. Hours. That night, after Harper was asleep, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Pictures from years ago, back when I still went to family gatherings. In every single one, I looked uncomfortable. Shoulders hunched, smile forced, body angled slightly away from the camera like I was ready to flee. In the recent photos, from Disneyland, from Harper's birthday, from random Tuesday afternoons, I looked different. Relaxed. Genuine. Happy. Worth it, I whispered to the empty room. Summer arrived with its promise of long days and lazy afternoons. We planted a vegetable garden in the backyard, Harper insisting we needed tomatoes and cucumbers and those little orange peppers that aren't too spicy. Mark built the tree house he'd been planning since we moved in. It took him 3 weekends and approximately 200 trips to the hardware store, but the finished product was perfect, a small sanctuary with windows on 3 sides and just enough room for Harper and 2 friends. She christened it the Reading Castle and spent hours up there with books and snacks and her endless supply of craft materials. Sometimes I'd hear her talking to herself, narrating stories or working through problems. Growing up. In July, we got an invitation to Ryan's parents' house, not from them, but from Jessica. She was hosting a cookout and wanted us to come. Just family who aren't terrible, she wrote. No drama, I promise. I showed the text to Mark. What do you think? Do you want to go? I don't know. Maybe? We went. Jessica's house was smaller than ours, older, but filled with warmth. Her kids, twin boys Harper's age, immediately dragged her off to show her their collection of bugs. Actual bugs, in jars, which she was somehow delighted by. Jessica's husband Tom grilled burgers while we sat on their deck, drinking lemonade and watching the kids play. It felt normal. Easy. Like family without all the complications. I did it, Jessica said quietly. Cut them off. Mom won't stop calling, but I blocked her number last week. How do you feel? Lighter. She smiled. Scared sometimes, but lighter. We stayed until sunset, Harper covered in grass stains and mosquito bites and grinning from ear to ear. In the car on the way home, she announced, I like Aunt Jessica's family. Can we do that again? Absolutely. It wasn't the family I'd grown up with. But maybe that was the point. August meant preparations for 4th grade. Harper needed new shoes, a backpack, school supplies. We made a day of it, turning errands into adventure, stopping for milkshakes and trying on ridiculous sunglasses just because. In the school supply aisle, Harper picked up notebooks with unicorns and planets and geometric patterns. Can I get these even though they're a little more expensive? Of course. And I'm not being spoiled? Or showing off? I knelt down to her level. Harper, wanting nice things doesn't make you spoiled. Enjoying what you have doesn't mean you're showing off. You get to be happy about your life without apologizing for it. She hugged me tight. Thanks, Mom. Standing in that aisle, surrounded by crayons and glue sticks and possibilities, I realized I'd finally learned what I'd been trying to teach her. That happiness wasn't something to hide or feel guilty about. That protecting yourself and the people you loved wasn't selfish. That some relationships were worth losing to keep your peace. September came full circle, 2 years since I'd cut off my family. Harper turned 9 with another party, this one in a climbing gym. She scaled walls with fearless determination while her friends cheered her on. Watching her reach the top of the highest wall, ring the bell, and rappel down with absolute confidence, I thought about the girl who'd cried because she wasn't invited to Christmas. She was still in there somewhere, but she'd been joined by this stronger, braver version. The one who knew her worth. After the party, after the cleanup and the goodbyes, Harper flopped on the couch next to me. Best birthday? I asked. Top 3 for sure. She grinned. Though Disneyland's going to be hard to beat. We'll manage. She was quiet for a moment. Mom? Do you ever miss Grandma and Uncle Ryan? The question surprised me. We hadn't talked about them in months. Sometimes, I said honestly. I miss the idea of what they could have been. But I don't miss how they actually were. Yeah. She nodded slowly. I get that. I used to think something was wrong with me. Like, if I was better or quieter or different, they'd want me around. My heart cracked. Harper. But then I figured out it wasn't about me at all. It was about them. And that's sad for them, but it's not my problem to fix. She looked at me with those 2 wise eyes. Right? Right. I pulled her close. Exactly right. We sat like that for a while, mother and daughter, comfortable in our silence. Outside, the sun was setting, painting our backyard in shades of gold and amber. Inside, we were safe. We were happy. We were enough. And that, I thought, was everything. The call came in mid-October, 3 weeks before Harper's 9th Halloween. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the sense that unfinished business was circling back around. This is Linda Chen from Mercy General Hospital. I'm calling about Barbara Henderson. She's listed you as her emergency contact. My mother. In the hospital. My first instinct was to hang up, to pretend I'd never received this call. But I stayed on the line. What happened? She had a fall. Broke her hip. She's going to be fine, but she'll need surgery and rehabilitation. Is there someone who can come sit with her? I looked across the kitchen at Harper, who was doing homework at the table, tongue poking out in concentration as she worked through a math problem. Mark was helping her, their heads bent together over the worksheet. I can't, I said. I'm sorry, but you'll need to call someone else. There was a pause. She said you were her only daughter. I am. But I'm not available. Try her son, Ryan Henderson. I hung up before the nurse could respond. My hands were steady. No shaking this time, no tears. Just a quiet certainty that I'd made the right choice. Mark looked up. Everything okay? My mom's in the hospital. Broke her hip. Harper's head snapped up. Are you going to see her? No, sweetheart. I'm not. Good. She went back to her homework. She wasn't very nice to you. The simplicity of children. The clarity they bring to situations adults complicate with guilt and obligation and history. Later that night, after Harper was asleep, I sat in her reading nook, the one Mark had built, in the room we'd designed, in the house we'd earned. The fairy lights cast soft shadows on the walls, and through the window I could see our backyard, the garden we'd planted, the tree house where my daughter felt safe. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Heard about Mom. You okay? Yeah. Not going. Good. She made her choices. You made yours. I thought about that, about choices and consequences, about the ways we teach people how to treat us. My mother had chosen her son's comfort over her granddaughter's happiness. She'd chosen to enable cruelty and call it family loyalty. And I'd chosen Harper. Every single time, I'd chosen my daughter's well-being over their approval. That wasn't abandonment or coldness or cruelty. It was love in its purest form. The guilt I'd been waiting for, the crushing weight of being a bad daughter, never came. Instead, I felt something lighter. Relief, maybe. Or just the absence of a burden I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. Downstairs, I could hear Mark loading the dishwasher, humming off-key to whatever song was stuck in his head. Above me, Harper slept peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams 9-year-olds dream. This was my family. These were my people. And I'd fought for them in the only way that mattered, by refusing to sacrifice them on the altar of other people's dysfunction. I turned off the fairy lights and headed downstairs to my husband, to the life we'd built, to the choice I'd keep making every day for the rest of forever. Some bridges burn. Some you burn yourself. And sometimes, standing in the ashes, you realize the view is better from here anyway.